The Golden Stallion, the man of tomorrow, Savzu, the rated R radio star, here back in the BDSM studio after PorcFest 2018, PorcFest 15. Not to be confused with the year, but that's how many PorcFests there have been. Ah, boy. So what I have here for you, first off, I'm going to give you, we'll open up with a little bit of a review of PorcFest and talk about a couple other things. But I have audio, and this is pretty much raw audio. There's some editing that I did only to edit out like where there's no sound. Because what this is the Dark Android workshop that I did at PorcFest, PorcFest 15, we'll call it that. I don't know, it's easier to call it PorcFest 2018. At PorcFest 2018, this is the Dark Android workshop where, understand this is not a cheap course. Not a cheap class. This is $200 a ticket, $200 a head. And out of it, part of the reason it costs so much was that you got an actual Nexus 7 tablet that I personally loaded and set up with Lineage OS and all that. You're going to hear all about that in a few minutes when I start going over the course. And it does open up raw. Like it opens up where I finally, the class doesn't start for a couple minutes into the audio, but it'll open up from right where I started hitting record and it'll just go. But there's points where I had to walk around and help somebody out with something during the class, and I'll call it a class. It's a workshop. I'll call it a class. And those parts I kind of edited, but otherwise this is raw audio, and all of it may not make a whole ton of sense because you don't have a Nexus 7 tablet in front of you. Okay. Or maybe you do. And then it could make total sense if you installed Lineage OS on it and you're using F-Droid and you cover the various apps that I cover throughout this. But before I talk more about the class, I'm going to talk a little bit about some other stuff. So again, this is raw audio. There will also be audio to come out of my privacy talk that I gave in the main pavilion. Once again, wasn't as many people sitting down for it as there was last year. But then I think last year I did mine on a Friday, and with PorcFest, it's something that runs from like Tuesday or Wednesday to Sunday, and a lot of people don't show up until the weekend. So, there wasn't like a full crowd necessarily there yet, to experience it all. That may have also been why there weren't as many people at the Sovereign Tech, the live Sovereign Tech recording, all of which is fine. All right, inside baseball. Well, first, finish my point about my privacy talk. Ryan Taylor, good friend, just great guy. I love Ryan Taylor. Ryan Taylor did a full professional. He hooked me up with a mic. He did video. He did a full recording of my privacy talk. That will be available to patrons. Okay, I will make that, and we'll make the audio version, and we'll have the video version. That'll be made available to patrons. I think he said he's going to try and get that to me this week. I'm recording this on June 26, 2018. So we will see if we, how we're going to make that happen. But I will get that out to you. I did my own private recording of my privacy talk, but it is very echoey. It is just barely listenable. So I was originally going to release that first, but I was listening back to it and I was like, I can sweeten it up a little bit, the audio, but we'll see. How that works out. I'd much rather just rip the audio off of the professional video that Ryan Taylor took. And he does do professional video. It's really, he's just a super talented guy. Big fan he's a big fan of mine. I'm a big fan of his. So this is just my workshop talk here. But now the inside baseball is going to give you. If you are, let's say you get to the point, okay, and I'm not saying I'm at any great point, but I've been asked to go to many conferences over the years, some of which I say yes, some I say no, and give talks. And I want you to understand something, okay? This is the inside baseball. If you are to become, say you're a podcaster listening to this or whatever, you're some kind of specialist or something and you're getting asked to talk, know this. The purpose of your talk is not really, again, I'm pulling back the curtain here. It's not really for the people in attendance. It is for them as well, but the importance of your talk is two things. One, it's that you can start saying to other people, to an audience perhaps, that you give talks, right? And that you've spoken on a stage, etc. That's important. That gives you a certain air of credibility. It gives you some street cred, right? And then the other part of it is to understand that it's all about the internet, okay? Meaning that really the video and the audio, whatever you happen to get from it, okay, is really for the audience at large. It's for the audience, the worldwide audience. It's not really for the people in attendance. It's for something to give to everybody else. It's something, again, to give you some street cred, and it's something to share with everybody else. So if you don't have a ton of people, I mean, I had plenty of people. It certainly wasn't like, there was a ton of empty seats or anything. Okay. I'm just saying that it's really like, don't worry about how many asses are in the seats. Okay, because it's not, this isn't the WWE. You're not having the camera pan around to see how many people are there and everything. Okay, this is, these are events where you can, and that's why I get private recordings of everything I do, because I never really know when I could, sometimes these events never put out the recordings, ever. Even if they have an entire AV team there, they might pay for that AV team, and then they might never release things. I can think of conferences from, holy shit, 4 years ago that I've still never received video or audio from. But I was able to give it to Sovereign Tech listeners and now patrons because I did an independent recording. So I didn't, again, I do independent recordings for all of this. I did not give video of this course. I don't think the video would have helped much. This really, really needed you to be having a tablet and sitting there for it to, not to make sense. I think it makes sense. I think you're going to listen to it and you're going to get the point. But I'm just saying, like, video doesn't add anything to the audio that exists. Okay, like video would not somehow, give you an extra level of understanding of what's going on. It just really wouldn't. Even if I reference things that I'm pointing at or visualizing, it's just not going to help. If you really want to take this to that level, you're just going to need to have a tablet in your hand, or you'll have to follow the book. Now the book, again, darkandroid.info is the website for that. You can get pre-orders of that. There's going to be a paperback edition, which you can't pre-order yet, but that's happening soon. But pre-orders are being taken now. And I already talked about on the Sovereign Tech Prime episode about how, I said I don't do pre-orders, and then I had to do a pre-order. Well, there's a reason for that. There was a certain pressure that existed that had me do that. So anyway, there you go. Understand that if you become a speaker or something like that, your real audience is the internet, not the people that are in attendance. The content is really for the internet and posterity. It is not so much for the event itself, or at least that's the way I think you should think about it. Okay, if you're trying to build up some kind of career or the ability to make money off of, off of what either your knowledge base, your listener base, etc., whatever. So I'm telling you, I mean, this is how this shit works. Most speakers won't tell you this. I'm telling you that's how it is, and whether they want to admit to it or not, believe me, it's how it works. So with that said, let's talk a little bit. Well, let's talk a little bit about PorcFest. Then I want to talk a little bit about the course, and then you get to listen to the course in its entirety. And yes, it absolutely was a 2-hour course. We spent 2 hours. So everybody sat there patiently as I went over everything. So PorcFest. I just got done saying how you do all of this, not for the event, but for everything else. Well, I'm going to level with you. I'm going to, like, I'm not that I'm ever dishonest with you. Okay. But I'm just going to tell you straight. I don't think I'm ever going to do a PorcFest again. For a few reasons. Some I will get into, some I won't, but boy, this is kind of tough to talk about. So I've been going to PorcFest for a long time. I've been going since, I guess, 2012 would be the first year that I went. I moved to New Hampshire in 2011, and I've been going to PorcFest since 2012. I don't, so this year's PorcFest organizer is Roger Paxton. He's dynamite. He's just one of the most wonderful human beings I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. I forget if it made it into the audio, but one of the things we had at the Dark Android workshop was I was supposed to have internet there, and there wasn't internet available so that people could go through the process of installing apps themselves and doing all these other things. Okay, that wasn't available there. He came into the room. And again, this might be on the recording, it might not be. He came into the room and just, where we were doing it, we were doing it in what's called the media room, which is also where we recorded podcasts and aired shows from. He came into the room and he just said, he's like, look, he says, we don't have internet here, unfortunately, or available for you to use. There was internet there, but it was really kind of a mess. He was telling me about it. And like I said, Roger, I'm such a huge fan of Roger Paxton. He's just a beautiful human being. And he comes in and he says, look, he says, we don't have Wi-Fi. He says, if that creates a problem for anybody here, let us know. We'll make it right with you. He said, but it has nothing to do, Brian Sovereign, it has nothing to do with him. He didn't mess anything up, blah, blah, blah. He was very apologetic. He says, Brian is literally the smartest guy, the most brilliant guy I know. And, it has nothing to do with him. Just let us know if there's a problem or something like that. Nobody seemed to have any problem, with that matter. So anyway, I got paid plenty of respect by the organizers. There's no real problem there. But a few things. So one, I'm trying to do so much with Sovereign Tech. Honestly, like taking, pretty much a week. We'll say that PorcFest is pretty much a week, right? Taking a week, and going camping like that, like I can't really afford that kind of time, especially to be somewhere where there is no internet, right? And like I think it has affected some patrons because there hasn't been as much content to come out throughout June as I would have liked. And honestly, PorcFest is largely the reason for that. Okay. I'm just, like it really gets in the way, and you have to have so much ready and everything. Even if I do go to PorcFest again in the future, I don't think I won't be giving talks. I won't be doing a Sovereign Tech from there. I won't be doing any of that. Because it just like there's a lot of pressure. Not that I can't handle the pressure. I most certainly can, but it's not just me. Okay. Right. I mean, there's other people, there's Stephanie, and like we had Ellen on and everything, I mean, there's other people in my life, that have to be on with this thing. And I've said this before, that in a very real sense, it's tough to guarantee things. It's tough to have timelines. It's tough to have deadlines. It's tough to have a lot of this other stuff when you rely on people besides yourself, and it's tough to make a lot of these things happen. So doing big, if it's just a weekend, okay, that's not as disruptive. But again, we're talking an entire week. And I think some of you, because I know some of you patrons were at PorcFest, you could be like, well, I barely saw you around. Well, yeah, but that's because I was doing shit, right? It's really, really disruptive, to take an entire week out like that, from everything that I need to do. And then there's other stuff, there's still clients that I have to work with or anything, it's not like I necessarily get to take a vacation. And the other thing too is honestly, people can be disruptive. And I don't like, not that I harbor any like ill will towards anybody there or anything like that. But like, everybody, they want to do this and they want to make plans. And then, like myself, if for some reason someone gets mad at me or like I'm somehow rude or something, like that doesn't really bother me at all. I don't care. Not that I ever intend to be. I just have shit to do. But not everybody understands that. And there's times where, I don't know, other people can get in the way of what I'm trying to accomplish. And when it comes to my show, when it comes to this show, when it comes to Sovereign Tech, there is nothing, I'm not saying no one, but there is nothing more important to me. Like Sovereign Tech is very much my life. Yeah, I do other stuff too. There's other ways that I make money, blah, blah, blah. But this is primo. This is numero uno. This is the big stuff. There's nothing more important to me. And I, if anything, risks or gets in the way of me delivering, especially when it's live, right? Like, yeah, I have projects that I have to postpone. Hell, I've had projects that I've had to postpone by like 2 years. Okay. If I have to postpone stuff, sure. Like, okay, and then I have to do that. But when like it's a live situation, when people have paid money to be somewhere to see you, and things get in the way of that, oh man, my professionalism kicks in and I get mad, mad and stressed. And I don't want to put myself in those scenarios anymore where other people have some kind of say or control or effect on what happens with this show. Okay. I mean, if there's times where, Sovereign Tech, it can't come out on a Saturday, it has to come out a Sunday, or hell, it has to come out on a Tuesday or something. Okay. There's times where that happens, and there's shit that's like, out of my control in a way where that goes down, blah, blah, blah. And if it's certain people that are affecting it, okay, that's fine, because there's a couple people on planet Earth that I will drop, and pretty much it's literally, 2, maybe 3 people that I would, I'll drop the entire world, and that includes Sovereign Tech, to make sure that they're okay and to be with them. But otherwise, no one gets in the way of this show, and nothing gets in the way of this show. Fuck it, fuck the world. Okay. And so, this has nothing to do with the organizers of PorcFest or anything like that, but just like, I don't know, being out in that setting and everything, and it's just not that I need to like close myself off in some dark corner, of the universe or any kind of business like that. But I just, it gets in the way of this being ready and available or being done for everybody out there. And it gets in the way of content getting made and all these other things. I mean, that's how serious I take this. That's how important this is to me. This isn't a joke. This isn't just some cute show. This is my life. This is me creating the, be the change you want to see in the world. How many times do libertarians fucking say that to each other? How many goddamn times? I've been hearing it for years. Well, I am being the change. I am affecting the change. Okay, I am doing all of that. And fuck anything that gets in the way of it. And that includes going to conferences and having to deal with people. So, I can't see it. And I mean, I've already like really backed off a lot of the conference scene. I'm totally willing to go to other conferences. And I'm willing to go there to do like interviews for Sovereign Tech or to make content for Sovereign Tech or something like that. I'm totally up for all of that stuff. Like that's fine and dandy with me. But I don't think I'm going to go to libertarian ones anymore. I don't want to go to ones where like I know the people, or where maybe to some degree the people know me, because I don't want to deal with anything that could somehow affect the show, or like I say, get in the way of content, get in the way of getting stuff done, blah, blah, blah. I mean, this is part of the reason that honestly, like I've gotten off a lot of social media, is because I'm just, and I'm obviously not talking about you, the listeners, or you, the patrons. Just shit gets in the way, and people don't get it. And honestly, a lot of people in libertarianism don't get it. It's so funny for people that talk economics all the time. They have no concept of, it seems, or at least a lot of them don't seem to have any concept of what it means to do actual business, to be fucking serious about it. Okay. And to, not be a lazy goddamned ass. It's just, it's unbelievable, and I see these same people again who are, oh yeah, free market. Oh, I'm doing business, blah. Oh, agorism, blah, 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 and they're just like, they're frankly the worst business people in the world. In fact, I remember a Sovereign Tech listener some time ago said to me, like, he put me under kind of capitalism or something on one of his little Venn diagrams. Okay. This guy was like really into philosophy. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't consider myself, I don't know that I'd put me under capitalism. I don't know that I fit there. And, he said, yeah, but you don't understand, Brian. You do capitalism better than most anarcho-capitalists. And I think that might hit the point home, is that the people that talk all the big shit about that ideology especially have no fucking clue how to make it happen, how to do it, like how to do the business, how to do business, how to be a professional. And that's fucking annoying. And it's part of the reason that, well, I mean, some of the conversation that came up, on the Sovereign Tech episode from PorcFest, that came up. I think that's part of the reason all that came up. I mean, I was one of 2 guys that was even asked to do a high dollar. And look, for an event, especially for an event like PorcFest, $200. I mean, that's double the price added on to what it even costs to go to PorcFest. Okay, that's a high dollar ticket. I was one of 2 guys trusted with being able to pull this off to where people would find value in it. One of 2 guys. The other guy is very professional and and actually a very intelligent guy. He's an engineer, and he did a whole thing with guns. You know how I feel about guns, but whatever, that's fine. I mean, I know the guy. He's a good guy. I dare almost call him a friend. And but that's the confidence that gets instilled, that gets put in me as Brian Sovereign, as a person, because I know how to do business. I'm not just some bum walking around who you can't count on and blah, 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 and who knows what the hell they're going to do. Are they even going to show up on time? Are they going to have some kind of, I don't know, something going to happen? Is there going to be some kind of breakdown? Blah, blah, blah. And man, you got to be particular. I know I'm ranting, but I don't want to go to these events anymore. And I really don't want to go to events where in a way, people know who I am and they think that they can claim my time. I just don't, as much as some of these people I might really, like and love and, whatever. I just don't want it. I'm all about going to events, Stephanie and I, or even, Stephanie, Ellen and I, whatever, we can go to these events and have a great time. And I'm all about doing that in the future. And I plan to, but it's probably not going to be libertarian events. Maybe this is going to keep me from ever being asked to go to a libertarian event again. Well, if that happens, so what? Because Sovereign Tech is so much bigger. It is so much bigger than that L word. It is so much bigger than that A word. It is so much bigger than any of those terms and than any of those ideologies. So I don't care. I've got other places to be, other people to listen to, or other people to have listened to me and to the show. So yeah, I think if you caught me this year, you probably caught a very rare bird. I mean, because I can't, unless I don't know, Creation Entertainment was holding some kind of science fiction convention and they asked me to do a Sovereign Tech from there, which I would be totally down for. Unless it was something like that, you're probably not going to see Sovereign Tech live again. I am not going to fucking deal with it, with these people. And I don't mean the organizers. I'm just not going to deal with it. So anyway, let's talk about while I brought up the Dark Android Workshop itself, let's talk a little bit about the Dark Android Workshop. So PorcFest, very busy. I want to say I had a great time, and I mean, for other reasons I did, but it was so super busy. I don't really have much to review about PorcFest. It did have a different feel. I talked about that on the Sovereign Tech Prime episode from there. Doing Sex and Science Hour was awesome. That was great. The talks went great. This workshop went great that I'm about to talk about. So the workshop. So what went down with the workshop here? The workshop, everybody got a Nexus 7 tablet, which has been the 2013 Nexus 7 specifically, with no LTE. It's purely Wi-Fi. And, longtime listeners of Sovereign Tech know the score. This has been my Dark Android recommended device for a very long time. And you may hear me say it during the talk. It's got, especially when you look at the Android One devices that Google's supporting right now, the Nexus 7 matches those specs pound for pound. And it still gets all these updates and everything, even though I put Lineage OS on it, to circumvent any lack of updates, perhaps, that Google's supporting for it. This is a well-supported device. It's a rock-solid device, and the specs are still good enough, to where you can get stuff done, especially when you don't put Google Play services on there. It's remarkable how fast this tablet is. I mean, it is fucking remarkable. So it's a great tablet. People ended up with that, and those tablets sell anywhere from $100 to $300 to $400, depending upon when you get it. So I brought my own. Of course, I have my own Dark Android tablet. I eat my own dog food, as it were. And we went over, everything, and I took questions as we went along. The one thing, and I mentioned this on the Sovereign Tech Prime episode, is they were supposed to all get a signed copy of my book. That is forthcoming. That is going to happen. That's why it's up on pre-order right now. I did not have that available at the class. Nobody seemed to have a problem with that. I offered full refunds if people wanted it, and everybody's like, no, it's fine. At the end of the course, you may not hear it. But at the end of the course, I was like, did everybody enjoy this? And a lot of people came up to me afterwards asking me other questions. Obviously, I didn't get those on audio, but everybody just said they really loved it and they really appreciated what was being put out there and what they had in their hands. And there's a lot of self-learning to do with this sort of thing, too. So, it was a bunch of people sitting in 2 or 3 rows of chairs and whatever. And again, everybody had their own tablet, and I would just cover and I would say, okay, it's this tablet, this tablet, this tablet. You're going to go with this app, then do this. You want to set up your lock screen in this way, blah, blah, blah. We cover all of these very different basic best practices to go with, and explaining, hey, you don't want any of the tech giant software on there. This is all independent open source software. That's what you want to go with. Perhaps get used to, using it anonymously, not attaching your name to it, etc., making this a really secure device. Is there such a thing as perfect security? No, of course not. And as I say during this workshop, and as I often say on Sovereign Tech, if you're a target of the NSA, there's nothing you can do. Like, I can't build you a tablet that's going to protect you. That's just not possible. So, but I really liked doing this because it was an alternative to like a lot of what often PorcFest will put on display, which is just a lot of like real, like very physical or violent self-defense. Okay. I'm not saying those things don't have their place at times or whatever. But it was a nice, peaceful alternative to really, for lack of a better term, arming people with genuine, anti-surveillance, anti-surveillance equipment, okay, or pro-freedom equipment. How about that? Pro-freedom equipment, which is really, really nice, and for it to be something, let's be clear here. All right, they're not guns. Well, at one point, though, encryption was considered munitions. So, it would almost, depending upon the spreadsheet, it would get classified under the same thing as, as some kind of weapon. So, but it's peaceful, right? And there's no real victim from using it and in any way. And so I thought it was a real honor, and I thought it was really cool to do this. I thought it was such a brilliant idea. When Roger and I first started talking, it was Roger's idea, and he's like, hey, what do you think? You want to do this? And I was like, yeah, what? I love this idea. And I'd love to do this thing more in the future with other devices and all that. Again, it probably won't be a PorcFest, like I was saying, but I thought that this was really, really cool. And it felt good to give people this knowledge and to have them walk out with something in their hands that, allows them to, evade surveillance and maybe get their hands on life-saving things, and who knows what else they want to do with it. Okay, not to say there aren't genuinely perhaps nefarious or malicious things that they could do with it, sure, but tech is a tool in this case, and I'm just showing them how to use it. What they use it for, well, that's not my responsibility. But anyway, so yeah, this was a great time, to really do it, and everybody was really, was asking great questions. I had no idea what my audience would be like. I didn't know if I would have a very, more like a grandpa style audience, which I guess it was probably half and half. Some people that were older, like 50 and older, and then the other half was, like under 50. And that's fine, but I had no idea what I was going to deal with. So this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. I think that it went very well. The reviews I got from everybody that attended seemed to suggest that it went very well. And I if everybody's happy, they know how to find me and reach out to me if something goes wrong, or and I will be sending out their books to them. I collected all their email addresses, which I won't do anything else with them other than just to get in touch with them and be able to mail their Dark Android books out to them, which hopefully you'll be able to get access to soon as well. So yeah, definitely a highlight, and probably my favorite thing that I did at the whole event, though I did enjoy the bulk of, recording Sovereign Tech there. Doing Sex and Science Hour was a lot of fun. Of course, getting to meet some of the patrons there was just an absolute honor and a pleasure, and I do mean that. From the bottom of my heart. It was just really, really wonderful. But this was, this was, of all the things that I did, this is the one where I was like, that felt really, really good to do. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. I've been talking for about a half hour. So you're looking at like a 2.5 hour episode here. Again, this is raw audio. It's going to go right in from when I hit record. There was some editing and if it ever sounds weird at a point, it's just because I was getting rid of a silence where I was perhaps helping somebody out. Or if there is a little bit of a silence, it's because that's exactly what I'm doing. Again, a great time doing the Dark Android workshop. I would be intrigued in doing it again in the future. And, I want to address something quick. Like, you can always come up. Again, there's really no such thing as perfect security. There's perfect math. But, implementation and other concerns and blah, 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 are always going to come into play. There's a million questions that can be asked, and you go, well, what if it's this situation? What if it's this situation? Where this exploit comes out or this exploit comes out. And yeah, any of those things can happen at any time. But the main thing that we're doing is just trying to make it expensive for them. And I think using a dark Android tablet is the right direction, especially right now. Right now is when you want to start getting away from a lot of these tech giants and their services and everything else, because it'll get to a point where you can't really get away from them. Where if you do start to pull away, then maybe it'll be noticed. But right now we're at kind of a sweet spot where getting away from the tech giants now is the real way to go, or is viable. And I think that for the future, it can help you disappear from, the quote unquote, the eye of Sauron, right? And a dark Android tablet's a great, starter pack, shall we say, to be able to do that. So anyway, I am done ranting. I've been talking a lot and being kind of vague at points. I recognize that, but I just want you to know that, again, it was a pleasure to meet some of the patrons there. This kind of thing I probably won't do again unless it's at like a non-libertarian, event. If it's at like a, kind of a broader tech event or science event or even a science fiction event or something like that, I'd be fine with any of that. Which I think, these kinds of things could be done at any of those. So, all right, there we go. We'll go right into the audio, and I will let it end out. I think it ends with some applause or something to that effect, and I'll let that ride out. And of course, your Wednesday Q&A will be coming out this week, and you got your Star Wars update coming out this week, and maybe a surprise or two. We'll see what I can fit in and what I can schedule. But that's it. I will see all of you. On the other side, let's get to the Dark Android Workshop from PorcFest 2018. It looks something very different from what you're used to seeing from any Android boot screen. How many people here use Android normally? Yeah? Okay. Are you like iOS?
Yeah.
Totally, that's okay. Out of the box, iOS is actually great as far as security goes. Android, you have to go the distance, but that's what this workshop is all about. So
the Google is because of like BIOS, whatever.
Yeah, because the bootloader is still Google. But the nice thing is that Google makes it easy to unlock the bootloader. So this is I guess this would be a good thing to know. Gauging the technical level. I know yours. Is it not powering yet?
Yeah, unless I'm just doing something wrong.
Let's have a see. No worries.
Assuming you hold down the button a little bit.
Yeah. We'll figure out what's happening from there. These were all working as of 2 days ago. There we go. I guess we'll give... Here for the Dark Android Workshop? Or are you just hanging out?
Just hanging out.
Yeah, hang out. No worries. Okay. All right, we're going to give one more minute to the two other people, and then we're going to get going. Does anybody have anyone else they want to see while they're here? You got other talks to go to and all that? Yeah. Okay, I think we'll just get started. Don't want to hold everybody up here, and people will have to catch up. All right, so there's, like I said, this is all, you have Nexus 7 2013's 16 gigabytes, which is enough for what you're going to be doing with this. The concept behind these devices is that they are absolutely, no tech giants getting their fingers into it, Google, none of these companies, which are in turn turning everything over to the NSA. Oh, here we go. Knew there was a guy. Yeah, we got one more yet, but there we are. Maybe they won't show up because right now I'm charging that tablet anyway. Jay, there's a. Is everybody? Yeah, if you want to get that. Yeah. Just need your email address for the paperback copy of the book. Amazon gave me some trouble, and so it's not coming out for a couple weeks.
Okay, so Nexus 7 2013s. These are perfectly modern devices, even though they are amazingly 5 years old. They are certified refurbished. If you do run into any issue with them, I'm easy to find. Brian Sovereign, I'm going to come up really quick. And please get in touch with me, and I'll definitely make things right with you if there's some kind of issue. Okay, perfect. Thanks. But yeah, refurbished because, again, they are 5 years old. Google doesn't make these anymore, even though they still very much support them. They'll bring them up to, they'll release security updates. They haven't updated the version of Android for a while. Like now, you that use iOS, like they'll update iOS to iOS 11 or 12, all the way going back to like the iPhone 5. I mean, it's really amazing. I think that's impressive of Apple to do. So what I've done is, for a couple reasons. One is we actually don't want Google to have their hands in this pie. Okay, this is your pie. Dark Android? Or just watching?
Oh,
okay. Right on.
He's bringing me my liquid breakfast.
Nice.
Bulletproof coffee.
Okay. Google. So we don't actually want their fingers in this pie. Google runs Android, but they own Android, but they operate an open source version of it. Does everybody have an idea of what open source means? We're pretty good on that. Open source means the software is, like, all of the code is available for anybody to look at and audit. Now, you don't want to think that just because something's open source that it's inherently secure because anybody can look at the code. The problem is people still have to look at the code, and a lot of times they don't. There's plenty of cases of open source software where it's terrible. Like, I mean, the code's horrendous. There's a lot of security exploits involved with it, etc. But Android is pretty well maintained, and they have what's called AOSP, which is the Android Open Source Project. And other independent communities and companies, perhaps ones more privacy and security focused, my kind of people, they will create their own versions of Android that can actually run just about any Android software you throw at it. Generally, it can run just about any Android software you throw at it. What is loaded on your tablets is what's called Lineage OS. It used to be called CyanogenMod. This is a version of Android. It can run Android software. We'll talk more about that in a second. It's not made by Google, and it's largely open source. It's as open source as you can get with one of these devices, with any Android device, really. Except there's one other version called Replicant that's a little more open source, but that's a whole other story that's not really pertinent here. So you have Lineage OS on there. It's still pretty much Android, but this is something where it's all done by an independent community that is very privacy focused, very security focused, which is exactly what we want. This is about having a secure mobile device that you can do things, that you'd feel a little more comfortable with doing with them. I don't know, this crowd, what you can imagine what they want to buy. So I'm not suggesting anyone do that. I'm just suggesting that maybe this is a great device to do that sort of thing with. With Lineage OS comes another aspect. When you install Lineage OS, because it's not stock Android, Android comes with the Google Play Store. Like iOS has the App Store, Android comes with the Google Play Store. You do not have the Google Play Store on these devices, and there's a reason for that, because now you can put the Google Play Store on here, and there's actually ways where you can still put apps from the Play Store onto this device, and if you're interested in doing that, that's something that can be looked into. It's not a difficult process, but you're going to have to log in with your Google account to a specific app within this, and that kind of defeats the purpose of getting Google out of your life. So that's why I didn't do it. That's why that's not loaded on here. What you do have is an app store called F-Droid. And F-Droid is all open source software, just like the operating system that I installed on here. Some of the apps I've already put on. Because of the Wi-Fi issue, there's some things that we may not be able to. I wanted to go through installing some of these things with you, but we may not be able exactly to do that. And that's not something that I planned on, and that's why I think Roger came up. But it's not anything major. It was more to show you the process of what it looks like to install it. I may be able to just show you on mine how that will work. So with all that in mind, so you have F-Droid, an open source app repository, which has alternatives to just about anything you'd want to do on a mobile device. I can't, other than unless you really using a banking app or something like that. But again, the idea here is that this is a really anonymous device that you feel safe, that you're not being tracked, that again, that security and privacy mindset that's going on with it. So you don't exactly want to be installing all of your banking stuff anyway. You want to keep as little information on this as possible, and that's part of the reason that only having 16 gig of onboard storage is okay for you. Anybody have any questions so far on what I'm saying? How are we feeling? We're okay? All right, we're okay.
I do have one question, actually.
Please,
So
Jay.
I've been using F-Droid for a while.
Sure, yeah, because you can install it on any Android
Basically,
device.
listening to your show, I used F-Droid to put a flashlight app on my phone.
Sure, right.
Because I didn't want those other creepy ones. But I've noticed I always try F-Droid first.
Yeah.
And I've noticed there's been a lot of apps that I just couldn't get through F-Droid.
Sure.
And it is because F-Droid, so when I have to go through Google Play Store, maybe I'll just use my device that already has sexually transmitted internet virus.
Yeah, I mean, this is right. This is kind of the idea. Like, part of the reason that we're doing it, that this is not being done on a tablet, is because like SIM cards and a lot of the extra sensors and extra gunk that they put into smartphones, not tablets, but smartphones, is inherently insecure. Like, I mean, there's genuine
Do you
exploits.
have a way maybe going around? Or
Yeah.
There's some apps we just can't use if we want to be secure.
I mean, that's the mindset I would recommend, and I'm going to explain a little more of that mindset in a second. But there is an app called Aurora in F-Droid that will let you install Google Play apps without putting on the Google Play Store. So if you really want to do that, you can, but you're going to have to log in with your Google account. Like I said, that comes with its own risks. You know, again, the idea here is this is trying to be an anti-alphabet soup organization device. That's the concept. But feel free, of course, to do whatever you want with it, you know, and modify it to your own taste. Everybody has different thresholds on how far they want to go. This is the baseline of this is where you start. Like, okay, if you really want a device that, you know, screw you to the NSA or something like that, or at least trying, here we go. I mean, in all honesty, and I say this all the time, there is no such thing. Does everybody know the Signal app? You're aware of the Signal app? Okay.
No.
Okay, we'll talk about it. The Signal app is kind of the gold standard of secure messaging. There is a way to put Signal on a tablet. It's normally not designed to do that. We will cover that. We do have time. Everybody's aware we're going till 1, right? I'm going to go all night long. So, okay. Yeah. So, where was I with the Signal app?
Using it on a tablet.
Yeah, we can. I had a point.
NSA exploits.
Oh, right. Okay, so even if you're using the Signal app, all these things that are just, you know, the gold standard of encryption and everything, look, if the NSA, if whatever the alphabet soup organization is specifically targeting you, you're done. I mean, you're just screwed. Like, there's nothing. If you yourself, or like me, Brian Sabin, was targeted, it doesn't matter what I do. There's nothing you can do. The idea is to just kind of be out ahead of this and hopefully disappear a little bit. Because I think a lot of, you know, all the tech giants, you know, Amazon, Facebook, go down the list of them. These security agencies, quote unquote, you know, CIA, NSA, whatever, they're becoming as reliant upon you using those things. They're becoming reliant upon it for their own signal intelligence, for their own, you know, collection of information. Okay, so the less that you put out there, like, I think it really does make a difference. So, but it's all about, you know, just mitigating, and then again, like I said, we all have our own thresholds of how far we're willing to go as far as protecting our privacy. Anyone else here for Dark Android specifically? Okay, all right. So keep that in mind. And if anyone has a question at any point, we'll go over that. So I explained Lineage OS. We talked about F-Droid. Why don't we start breaking into the devices, and then maybe we'll have questions as that goes along. One of the things I could not do, which is really the best and first thing to do, is to set up a pin lock on your device. Everybody that booted theirs up, you probably noticed there was no password or anything to get into it. I did not set that up for you, because how secure would that be if I knew all of your pin codes? But there's a conversation to have around password locks and pin locks and everything like that anyway. The other thing that you want to do at first, there's two other things that are all related to the lock screen. The other thing you want to do is you want to encrypt your device, which Android has built-in encryption that you can set up. I will show you how to do it here, and there are very easy tutorials online on how to do it, but it takes about an hour. The device has to be plugged in. So, but that's, again, that all can be done later on, and hopefully you're not going to be putting like any real personal information until after you take this home and encrypt it anyway. So let's start off, just so you can see what the encryption looks like. when you do have your device encrypted and when you power it on, none of you probably saw it, and feel free everybody to power your devices on. You probably didn't see a screen like this. It did not look like this. This is what it's going to look like when you come up with, when your device is encrypted. It's going to ask you for your PIN code first before anything can be initialized on the device. That's a great thing. Everybody understands, like, you know what encryption is. You don't have to understand the cryptography, but you know what encryption is, right? It's just mucking up all of the data that's on the device to keep it from being read by prying eyes or prying devices. So I will enter my PIN code. We'll get past that. Now it's going to starting Android, and it's going to take a second to start that up. So what we want to do first is set up on your lock screen. We're going to set up a PIN code, and you want to use a PIN code. You usually have 3 options. Sometimes Android, I mean, now they have like 5 or 6 options, and like iOS has Face ID and Touch ID and all that you can do. Biometrics, in my opinion, are also inherently insecure. They're easy to get past. It gets shown every single time they're on the showroom floor from Samsung or whoever. Some very enterprising individual will walk up to the device and maybe put the Touch ID scanner on their nipple, and suddenly they're into the device. It's just that simple. So you do not want to use biometrics if you can help it. Of course, I know Apple kind of incentivizes it, but that's fine. So the best thing that you can use, the other thing is that, and again, I'm going to bring up like a lot of advanced points. If you ever have questions on any of them, feel free to ask, and I can break further into it. But I want to try and keep it generalized so that way anybody can really start using these devices and have these devices secure. Because that's the idea, is that I'm giving you a device that is ready to go out of the box, and you can feel comfortable using it. So one of the other ways that Android allows for you to unlock is using a gesture, like swiping. A certain shape on there. These were shown that just with like video camera footage, and not even them seeing what you're doing, but just like with thermal, like it has an infrared,
Thermal imaging.
Yeah, thermal imaging of some kind. Which, right, exactly, it leaves a heat trail. There you go. Thank you, Jay. You listen to my show. So there's a problem with that. So really, the best option we have for locking our device down is a PIN code, which is convenient because when you encrypt your device, it's going to ask for a PIN code. So that's a wonderful thing. So we're going to set that up first. And how you're going to do that, you can follow along with me. Everybody got their devices powered on, in their hand, good to go? Okay, everybody that has one. You're going to just swipe down, and there's going to be a little gear, a little sprocket here. We'll press that. And then we will go to you're going to scroll down to where it says security, and we'll just tap security. Right at the very top of security, you're going to see it says screen lock. Okay, and you can choose that, and it's going to ask you what type of screen lock would you like to do, and you want to choose PIN. No worries, I can give you a hand. Anyone wants to raise their hand if we're not finding it. Gotcha. Oh, okay, we're in after it. That's all right. So we're just going to scroll down. Look at this guy here. And we go down to security. There we go. Look at that. Then right at the top, it's screen lock. And then choose PIN. Now I recommend you can set, it's going to ask you for your PIN. I recommend a 6-digit PIN. A 6-digit PIN makes it mathematically ridiculously harder for that to be correct. Oh, sure. Just swipe down. And there it is. And then just scroll down to security, and right at the top when you get to the security tab, it'll say PIN lock. So go ahead and you're going to have to put that in twice. Please do remember it, or we have to completely reset your device. And this definitely does take time.
You can change the PIN later?
Absolutely, as long as you remember it the first time. And once everybody's there, let me know when you've got that, and then we're going to go on to something else.
I believe heat signature is the word you use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same concept.
I played with thermal imaging devices when I was on the fire department. They were pretty interesting.
They're cheap now.
Well,
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's
buys them, then they're not. But.
Well, right, yeah. But I mean,
Yep.
Anybody could really, it's easy to put them on any camera.
And Ryan, what are your feelings on PIN versus password?
Same score. Like password, like the 6-digit PIN is so easy to remember, and mathematically it matches just about any password. And also the other problem was that the password recommendations that people have had for a very long time were horrendous, because it's all about entropy. Like for passwords to really work, you're talking 28 characters, really randomized, which sometimes you have to use them, and that's okay. Yeah, so I think PIN is your best bet. Did you have any thoughts, Ryan? Ryan Taylor here is a very smart man. So anyway,
That's kind. No, I was just curious because I've heard the same thing that passwords is so hard to get a strong password, especially when you can remember.
Yeah.
So obviously, if the security on both of them is relatively level, then you might as well go with what's easier to remember.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it does come down to a situation of practicality.
How hard is it to image it and then just brute force a 6-digit PIN?
A lot harder than a 4, and that's kind of the deal.
I mean, with 6 digits, you wouldn't think it would be that hard to just go through all the combinations,
Well,
right?
right. So that's
Vice
the.
versa.
Yeah, so that's the thing with the PIN is that it's not exactly like a brute force process. The PIN is actually representative of an entire hexadecimal process. So you in a way you're brute forcing a password. I mean, that's like kind of the simple way to explain it. But the PIN is allowing for that. So it's not as simple as like they get to go through this many permutations. The PIN is representative of a very long string of of code. So.
You get brute force the interface though that you get.
Tell me more.
Like, well, you have to enter that PIN code somewhere, right?
Yes.
So I mean, technically, you could brute force that would take a long time, and sometimes.
Well, I'm saying if you could image the whole device onto something else, then you should be able to rapidly go through 6 digits like that.
But then that applies to other stuff. Okay, so.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That like they're really not cracking a 6-digit code. They're actually they're cracking like an entire hexadecimal process.
That encryption would be different. Like it wouldn't know that his hex was going to be able to do that.
Yeah, as to where the password, as to where if it's just a straight password, right? All they have to do is figure out the entropy of it, and then they're in with the brute force.
You're saying that there's something internal to the device that you can't image, and that 6 digits it gets hashed through that or something, and then that's what's used to encrypt it?
Well, you could image it, but what I'm saying is it's not just like what they would be brute forcing isn't just 6 digits.
Okay.
The 6 digits is more of an easy representation of a much larger process that's being done underneath. So, okay, so does everybody have their pin locks on? Are you all set? Have you tried it out and made sure you didn't forget it? Like, all you got to do is just turn off your device quick and then turn it back on.
Now I'm at the show all notification content.
Let's see what you got.
Oh, when your device is locked, how do you want notifications to show?
Okay.
So just
That's up to your personal threshold. Yeah. However, if you want it to show that or not, there's a lot of settings that you can play with, and a lot of the apps that are on here as well that will be helpful. But okay, so if we're all set, everybody's got their. Do you have your pin in? Are you?
I've got it in, and I'm restarting it so I can.
Oh, to test it out. Okay. Yeah. Sure thing. All right. So then next thing we're going to do, and while he's restarting, no problem. What I want you to do is, and this is a really handy thing to learn with, a lot of people don't even know this feature exists within Android. If you go to that same settings gear again, where you swipe down and it brings up the settings gear, you want to go back to settings. And when you get to settings, if you look at the top, you'll see a little search magnifying glass. Okay, what we got? Go ahead, hit the power button. Okay, so
It just did that, yeah.
okay, so when you tap on it or swipe up, go for it. Okay, so did we see the search bar? Is everybody? Yeah. Okay, so you're going to want to type in, click the little magnifying glass and type in lock screen. And this isn't, because there's so many settings on these devices. If you're trying to find something, it's really easy to use that magnifying glass in settings. So I'll show you if you want to swipe down to get to the gear. Hit the gear. And then there's the magnifying glass there. And type in lock screen. And what you're going to see, one of the options is lock screen message. If anyone's having any trouble, just raise your hand and I have no problem. And if you want to click on lock screen message, and it should bring up a little window that looks like this. That's going to let you type in some information on your lock screen. You got it. Oh, let's see. Yeah, isn't that? Oh, here we go. Lock screen message. Okay, and that's where we want to be.
Okay.
So what we're going to type in on this little, when you have this little text box.
I'm supposed to hit one more thing?
Yeah, lock screen message.
Oh, I hit. Oh, so you get hit twice then.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
No, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I generate the field.
Yep. So again, don't hesitate to ask questions. Okay? So when you get lock screen message, this is just a neat little trick. I don't know how well it'll ever hold up in court. It's never really been tested, but I think it's no harm, no foul, and you can do this on your smartphones. You can do it on everything.
Let's try it.
What you're going to type is email, and then you're going to put your email address, okay, or an email address that you want, that you're willing to share. The concept behind that is that if you lose your device, somebody maybe will be kind enough to get in contact with you. Now maybe you don't, again, depending upon what you want to use this device for, maybe you want to create a secret email address, but at least then still you can get your device back, because there's a chance that if you want, we'll talk about it later, you might want to store some cryptocurrency on this, and why would you want to lose your device? So, but then after that, after your email address, you want to put a slash, forward or backward, doesn't matter, and you're going to want to type in no consent to search. And this is a handy thing. Pretty much every Android device, I think iOS might have something similar, where there's a lock screen message of some kind. And is this going to stop, a border agent or anything like that? No. Like, they're going to want to get into the device fine. But at least, you can there's some kind of hint that you weren't consenting to your device getting searched. So this is a very popular thing in the crypto community to do.
No consent to search.
No consent to search yet.
Does that have a hardware encryption on it, or is it all software?
It's Android has an encryption scheme with modern Android, or more modern Android hardware. So,
I know, like some of the iOS devices, they actually have
right.
External.
Yeah. So because iOS has a secure enclave, which is actually hardware based. It's not a TPE module, but kind of. It's not exactly like that, but the encryption is.
Does it hold up to? And then this is the last question.
No, sure.
You've seen the devices that cut down like police officers and some of the border agents where they can image the phone without your password. How does the encryption, has that been tested?
So there's an Israeli company that releases this stuff. As far as we know, that'll get through just about anything.
Really?
That gets back to the point I made earlier that, look, if you're a target,
yeah,
that's your life's going to be hard no matter what you do. Okay, so does everybody have their lock screen message set up?
Yes.
So then we can get on to...
I can't switch between screens to my
sure.
to symbols.
Oh, okay. You want to hit one that? There you go.
Do you have more of these for sale at a later date? Or do you have a place to go, recommend to go buy them?
I mean, the sad part is that you have to buy them from Amazon. Like all of they don't come from Amazon. They come from little electronics companies all around the country or all around the world, which is a good thing. But Amazon's definitely the hub, and so these are, depending upon the time of year, these are anywhere from $100 to $200. Actually, anywhere from $100 to $400, because these are so popular with, guys like me and people like you now. So, so they, depending upon the the time of year, they can fetch a pretty good price. And sadly, Android has really fallen off the tablet bandwagon, which is sad because
they said they're going to stop making them.
Pretty much, yeah. And I mean, there's a bunch of different reasons for that. I mean, the iPad's still hot, but that's not helping us here. But Android tablets, the sad part is, like I said, is that there's so much stuff that gets put into your smartphone that is really problematic as far as security goes. You really want tablets, But yeah, so that's why we're using 5-year-old hardware here. But like I said, there's still plenty powerful, plenty
Tablets
advanced.
being phased out because everything the average trendy hipster wants is in a cell phone now.
Yeah, bingo.
The tablets with the Android's going to stop supporting the tablet? How does that work?
Well, they're not exactly not supporting, but Google's switching more to where they're going to have Chrome OS, I think, on their tablets, like they're doing with the Pixel Book.
Of the specific Google tablet.
Yeah, in fact, even the website, the Android.com website, got rid of their tablet section, and then they brought it back. They said it was just a bug, but I think just Samsung complained and said, wait a minute, we're still trying to sell tablets. But with Samsung's tablets, you have the Exynos processor, and that runs into a bunch of concerns as well. So, okay. All right, so we got our lock screen message. We're all set on that. So we can get back to the home screen. And if we're all there, okay, so let me, just so I can see, if I could just see your screen for a second. Okay. All right. So on here, we'll go over some of this stuff I have like in the Dark Android book that you'll be getting. I have full tutorials on how to set it up. There is software. If you press this little white button here that brings up all the different apps, you can see everything that's installed on your tablet, and you'll notice it's not much. And that's totally by design and on purpose. And in fact, if we had Wi-Fi here, there's very little that we would be installing. There's a total of 2 apps that I would be telling you to install, and neither of them may be very important to you, so that's okay. But the idea here with very little software is that it's called what I call software minimalism, and that is the less apps you have, the more secure you are. Because the more apps you have, the more things you're logging into, the more gateways you have into your personal life. This is also true, honestly, with hardware. Like the more computers you have, the more IoT devices you have, if your TV connects to the internet, blah, 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 blah. All these different things are just creating more attack vectors into your digital life, which directly affects, as much as some people want to imagine it doesn't, which directly affects your real life, because we do everything online now, pretty much. And again, this is the idea, is that you're doing everything online as securely as possible. So there's not much installed here, but what is installed is is security software that I've put on there. Now there's other things that you can do, like if you wanted to use this as a GPS device, it actually works really great as a GPS device. And I could tell you I can let you know what software to use as far as that goes that you can install from F-Droid. But starting off, let's take a look at F-Droid. You'll see it on the bottom right. It should be on everybody's bottom right. And you'll see yours will probably be white. Again, Android's like super configurable, so mine's dark, but yours will probably have more of a white screen. But this is your app store, and if there's something you can think of that you want to install, there's a little search button at the bottom, and you can just click on that, and then you can type in, well, like Jay said, you could type in flashlight. And it's going to come up with some options as far as a flashlight app if you want that sort of thing. Now, you don't have to actually install a flashlight app on, oh no, actually maybe you do. Well,
On the newer versions.
right, yeah, Lineage OS has like the flashlight built in, so, or the newer versions of Lineage OS does. So if you want to install a flashlight app, you could do that. You're probably going to just come up with a stock screen because you don't actually have internet connection right now. So you're not going to be able to really search and find other apps. But that is your app store. Whatever you're looking for, you're going to go through that. You might even see that app I mentioned earlier at the top, even though you don't have internet access. You might see Aurora mentioned, which that's what allows you to download Google apps from the Google Play Store onto a device that doesn't even have the Google Play Store installed. You can't do it for all of them, but quite a few of them it'll work for.
The Aurora app is in the F-Droid?
Yes.
Okay.
You can get that from F-Droid. So, okay. So that's your app store. Works just like any other app store, really, but you want to get used to using it. After that, let's go into encrypting your actual connection with this device. Now, how we're going to do that is if you open up your apps to this screen again, and if you go to, you'll see at the bottom there's something called Orbot. It looks like an onion, and you're going to click on that. Anyone here familiar with Orbot already? Right on. I know Ryan is. Okay. So Orbot, is everybody looking at this? Is this what we're looking at?
No. No.
You know, just says hello.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you've got it. This is the first time setup. I'll explain why I didn't do that. So yeah, you're going to want to hit. Yeah, just swipe through. If you're getting like a hello, just swipe through it, and eventually you'll get to exactly. There we go. You'll get to the screen that I have.
But this is done in progress.
Okay. So what Orbot does is it routes everything all your traffic that you're using on this device, and it routes it through Tor. Which, does everybody know Tor? Everybody, or at least you've heard of Tor? Appreciate that, by the way. Thank you right on. So Tor is the onion router. Tor is a open source project that, well, it gets used around the world by activists, by all kinds of people, to usually get around government blocks on their internet, say in Turkey, or pick your country. There's plenty of places where it's used. It's also great, again, just for scrambling and encrypting your data, because what most people don't realize is that legally in the U.S., ISPs can hold on to your data for up to 5 years. Anything that goes through their Wi-Fi networks, anything that, in telcos, same situation. They can hold on to that data for a while. So a great thing to do is to encrypt that data. That way they're not holding anything. And you can install this. You don't need a tablet to use this. You can install this on a smartphone as well if you want. All of this, a lot of the software that I put on here is made by a organization called the Guardian Project, which they are really, really great. They have awesome software, which we're going to be going through. So you're going to see a couple things. There's this big onion here at the top, and if you press that, and if we had there we go. It's not going to go anywhere, but if you press that, it'll light up. And what will happen is at the top left, you'll see a little onion on your screen. And that onion is letting you know that you're connected. Now, there's a little bit more to it than that. And really quick, I will connect my device to the internet here fast. That way maybe I can actually show you some of this stuff, what it looks like.
What's that connect line to the Wi-Fi on my phone?
What's that?
I'll just connect mine to my
Wi-Fi
on my phone.
So just be a second. Everybody doing okay? Any questions? Feel free to ask them at any point.
Do you recommend not having these be connected to your mobile phone as a hotspot, because then that would tag these with your personal identification on the phone?
I mean, depending on what you're doing, I wouldn't do that. Something that a couple things if one wants to get really advanced, like, is even where to connect this with. Well, here, before we do this, I'm going to read you a little something from a guy who, I don't say this about many people, who's a lot smarter than I am. I'm just kidding. There's a lot of people that are a lot smarter than I am. So this is from Steve Gibson. Steve Gibson is the host of the Security Now podcast, easily one of the most popular podcasts in the world. It's my personal favorite podcast. He's a personal hero of mine. And every week he talks about, and he's been doing it for over a decade, he'll just talk about the various security exploits that happen every week, be it with an Android device, iOS devices, computer servers, all of it. He'll break into all of it. And at one point, this is kind of after the whole Snowden revelations and everything, he finally came out and said, look, if you really want to be really secure, you need to do something really deep. This is what you have to go through. And so I'm going to read here what he exactly said. So this is a quote from him. So the only way, if you absolutely need anonymity, is to roll together old school approaches and new school. Go somewhere to do this, again, whatever it is you're doing, maybe you're getting medicinal things, as far away from home as convenient. Be anonymous there. Pay with cash. Don't go somewhere familiar. Don't know anyone. Don't make any friends. Don't talk to anyone. Don't stay long. Plan ahead. reverse for speed, get it done and leave. Don't do anything there that involves your own real-world identity. Pay with cash. Change the MAC address of your machine. I mean, he goes really deep. Maybe buy a cheap laptop just for this purpose so that it knows nothing and you have no history tied to it and so forth. And that's kind of the purpose of this, is that last line. And I would say, since you have control over Tor, use more than 3 nodes. Don't use the default settings. Use as many as you can so that and use widely geographically dispersed Tor nodes. Those will be slower because all the traffic bouncing around has to go through all those locations. So yes, it's not going to be quick and easy, but to get anonymity, it can't be. Do what you need to do and then pack up shop and leave. So new school and old school. But unfortunately, all of the research demonstrates today that Tor was an interesting experiment, and he kind of goes on and he starts talking about some other things. But that's kind of the point, is that there is no such thing as too much paranoia when it comes to your digital life. Like that's the reality of the situation. And this is trying to make it as practical and as easy for anybody to use as possible.
I think even if you do all that, like if you go to Best Buy and you buy it with cash,
right,
you still got to put on a face mask because they could go in sale. They've got cameras on you right there, right? They could match it up with the serial number of the device that just went through the register.
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, so that's the thing. Again, like really, if they're coming after you, there's ways, right?
Do you trust the setup on this device well enough that we shouldn't feel like we have to put tape over the cameras so that it's not snapping a picture and starting to gather identification information?
With the very few apps that were installed, and you can verify like the permissions that those apps have. Again, that's why we don't want the tech giants there, because I don't trust Google to not take those pictures, right? And that's why we don't have a Google operating system on here. So in general, yeah, I feel pretty comfortable with it. There's nothing wrong with putting a little tape over that if you wish. And there's a back camera as well. Keep that in mind. This is the same device you have, just it's in a case if it looks different to you. But certainly that's a direction to go, because I put tape over every laptop that I have, regardless if it has Windows on it or Linux. So that's something to consider as well. But I'm glad your mind's going in that direction, because that's the idea. Yeah.
Are there any elements of this device that you feel like there might be some kind of hidden layers of code that have not been thoroughly studied or are closed from inspection?
So the ugly answer to that is Wi-Fi is pretty much closed source. Like Wi-Fi, and I mentioned earlier there's an operating system called Replicant, which is a lot like what you have on here at Lineage OS, and that very specific devices will it work on, and one of the reasons that it doesn't work on a lot of devices is because it tries to create an open source Wi-Fi standard. And so that can be an issue, but then that's where you don't want to be logging into your, that's why I didn't feel comfortable saying, log into your Google account with Aurora or whatever, because you want to try and be anonymous with this. The way the we'll get into the web browser in a minute. The way the web browser is set up is that it destroys all the cookies and all of your web browsing history. You can change all these things if you want, but these are things that I pre-set up. Also in the web browser that I pre-set up, it doesn't use Google search, it uses DuckDuckGo. There's a lot of elements put into this to if you don't want to share your identity, you don't have to. So anyway, that addresses that.
Yeah, well, one more question.
Yeah, please. No. That's
so on Intel, you've got like the secret processor, the management engine stuff that basically NSA can arbitrarily control anything.
Yeah, some Sandy Bridge.
Whatever processor that's on here, does it have some kind of secret processor with its own special code in here?
Okay, so this is an ARM-based, or actually, I'm sorry, this is a Tegra, which is still more or less an ARM-based processor. Okay, and ARM-based processors have the issue of what's their firmware, baseband firmware, and baseband firmware just accepts any signal that gets thrown at it. This is one of those issues that makes why we're talking about tablets, not smartphones, because this isn't a persistent connection. That's an advantage as to where this has a persistent cellular connection going at all times. Okay, and that means that in any second it can receive. And if you have Lineage OS on one of these, you can turn off your cellular data if you want, but that kind of defeats the purpose of having a smartphone. You're trying to mitigate that by having so much control over the antennas that are in this device. The baseband firmware, that is a well-known security issue that there's no real solution for right now. So it's not exactly the same. Excuse me. It's not exactly the same as like the IME problem, where like people recommend buying LibreBoot computers. Like you buy computers before Sandy Bridge, which was an Intel device that where you can open source like the entire BIOS and everything. That's a different situation. But I'll tell you in the abstract, and this is a point, I'm giving a talk later on that won't get as deep as we're getting here, but I'm giving a talk later on. In the abstract, I really wish people would get more used to using their laptops than their smartphones. Because with your laptop, you have infinitely more control and you have infinitely more options. I mean, you know, you're still going to have to buy older hardware if you want to beat like the IME thing.
And you won't hurt your thumb joints.
Yeah, how about that, right? And you won't get tech neck either. So, yeah. But, you know, so getting used to using our computers again more, I think has a lot of advantages. One of them is that we're not constantly distracted, perhaps, and we can get away from them as to where, you know, usually with a smartphone, you're just always, you know, every second. And you're just feeding data that whole time. You know, just with the laptop, you have a lot more control, a lot more options of what you can do. Again, the purpose of the tablet is kind of that middle road where this is as easy for anybody to be able to use. It's accessible, it has great battery life, etc. But it's not as egregious upon your life as the smartphone. So, okay, let's talk up a little Tor. I am connected to the internet, so I'm going to hit the big onion here, and then it's going to, when I scroll down, let me tell you about this. So another nice thing that Lineage OS has compared to any other operating system, including stock Android, it has what's called Privacy Guard, which I activated on all of your devices. Privacy Guard tries to what's called sandbox, which means putting software into its own little box. Okay, it tries to sandbox all of the data that app uses or potentially collects, and keeps it from sharing it to the rest of the operating system or to other apps. So you're going to see a little shield at the top whenever you actually open an app that says Privacy Guard enabled. That's a good thing. You absolutely want that. Okay, so I have Orbot on at the top. It's telling me that data is going up and down. It's giving me the data rate of all that. So Orbot is more or less functioning. Now, the other nice thing about Orbot, how many people know about VPNs? Have you heard of VPNs? Pretty much. Yeah, okay, all right, cool. So VPNs, the nice thing with Orbot is it has its own built-in VPN that you can use, so you don't have to download from private internet access or anything like that, even though there's certainly great VPNs out there, very few. But you can, there's where it'll say VPN mode, you can just tap that, and then suddenly you have a VPN. The disadvantage of using Orbot is that it will drain your battery faster than if you're not using it, if you're just on a regular connection. So just something to be aware of. It's not a significant difference, in my opinion, but it is a difference. It will drain your battery, so you might not want to keep it on all the time.
So
or you may want
yes
to keep it on
or
all
no
the
to the connection request.
Yes.
Okay.
So we click on turn VPN mode on.
Yeah.
It says connection request, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So now the one thing, and the reason why I didn't actually already open up all of your Orbot apps was, and you may want to change this now, or you may want to keep it this way. It's up to you. The first time you install and open Orbot, it will automatically start every time you start your device. But like I said, there's a battery drain there, and if that's a concern, you may want to turn off the fact that Orbot automatically activates. Or if you want to be secure, you may want to leave it on. If you want to turn it off, there's the ellipses at the top left, the 3 dots, and it's going to give you settings. And right at the top, it'll say Start Orbot on boot, and you can just uncheck that box to turn that off. And feel free to explore with these devices all the different settings. I mean, there's a million settings to go through, and you really can't do a whole ton of harm. So, it's safe to rock that. Okay, so I am connected with the VPN. I am connected on Orbot. Now, when you're using Orbot, you're actually going to use a different web browser than what you normally than what comes with the device itself. And you'll see it if you open up your app drawer again. You're going to see next to Orbot, it's called Orfox, and it'll have a little symbol of the fox. This is a fork of Firefox, which Firefox is great. And when you open it, this browser will only work if Orbot is running, and it'll completely shut off if you're not connected to Tor, which is great. When you first open up, and unfortunately you won't be able to see this, but I'll show you. I'll pass it around so you can see. There is an option to check your Tor connection to make sure that you're actually on Tor. And it'll say, congratulations, this browser is configured to use Tor, and that's letting you know.
So to check your Tor connection, was I supposed to push something else to get there?
Hit start browsing. Right there, check Tor connection. Okay, so that's what you're going to see. That's good, and you're fine. And we got all that. Okay. Mohan, you look like you're dying over there, man. Like you want to speak up. Are you good? He's got his inductions in. So when you're connected through Tor, you're going to want to use Orfox as your web browser because that will allow you. I mean, you can do regular web browsing on it too, but you can even, if you really wanted to, I don't recommend doing this, but you could connect to Facebook through Tor. Facebook actually has a Tor site, amazingly, which will probably boot up in a few minutes. Anyway. So that's Orbot and Orfox. Like I said, you can run Orbot all the time, and that way you're going through a VPN, and you're also going through Tor, so you're double encrypted, whatever you're doing, and it's anonymized. But now we'll go on to, let's look at our other web browser here, which is that's to your right. It's just next to the app drawer button to your right. And if you had an internet connection, it would go to DuckDuckGo.
Is that the green spear thing?
Yeah, that's the little green spherical icon there. So who's familiar with DuckDuckGo? Okay, cool. Yeah, DuckDuckGo is great. I often, when I mention DuckDuckGo, people instantly ask me, what about StartPage? StartPage is fine, but it's not as integrated. It's not like... This web browser that's built into it had DuckDuckGo as an option that you could instantly set for your search engine, as to where StartPage is usually not so readily available. Either of them are fine. I personally love DuckDuckGo. I think they do a lot of things right. So getting used to using DuckDuckGo is going to bring a lot more security into your life just out of the gate. This web browser functions just like Chrome or take your pick of Safari, whatever. I mean, it operates all the same way. So if you've used a mobile browser before, this is more or less the exact same thing. Just they've stripped a lot of the ugly code out of it. But again, if you're connected through Tor, go ahead and use Orfox because it takes advantage of all of that encryption better than just the stock web browser. Now, let's look at some of the other apps that are on here. One of them we're going to get into is pretty interesting. But the other one, so there's an email app that's built into it, and it looks like that little dog. And if there's any fans of Doctor Who, and I don't mean the new horse shit, I mean the classic one with Sylvester McCoy or whatever, or Tom Baker.
One called?
What's that?
The email app called?
It's called K9, and it's actually directly to the left of the app drawer. And it has like a red eye that looks like a mail message.
Yep.
Okay. So this is your email app. It's very powerful. It has every feature on planet Earth. It's a beautiful email app, and feel free to use it. And the other nice thing about it and I apologize, as did Roger, that we can't just like set up email here right now for you because we're not connected to the internet. But there's another app called down by where Orfox was in your app drawer called Open Keychain. And Open Keychain, and this is something that is in my book that I have a tutorial on how to do. Open Keychain sets up PGP encryption, and it works in concert with K9 Mail. PGP encryption, in my personal opinion, is still the best encryption out there. I like it still more than I like Signal for quite a few reasons. One of them being you don't need a phone number. And Open Keychain, this app is probably the easiest way I've ever seen to set up PGP. The reason PGP's been around for 30 years. The reason nobody uses it is because it's hard to set up. This makes it very simple. In fact, the tutorial I think most people could get through pretty easily. But I'm happy to. Again, you'll be getting a copy of my book, which can explain it in greater depth. Or there are onlines. Actually, at EFF.org, they have self-defense. Surveillance self-defense is what it's called on EFF.org, and I think they have an entire tutorial there as well that explains how to set up PGP email so you can encrypt your email as you're sending them through this device. So again, you're getting a complete, just about every security technology out there, or encryption technology that you can take advantage of and communicate with is possible right here. And that's really important. The more people use encryption, the better off we all are. Sharing is caring. So, okay, so that's your email app. How many people here? Let me ask this: how many people here would like to use Signal on this? Okay, so I'm going to explain. First off, I'll show you that it's possible. Signal is on here because there's people who tell you can't do this with a tablet, and that's nonsense. Signal is not available in F-Droid in the App Store. You have to independently install it. One of the things I did want to go through was independently installing an app from a site, which would have been a Bitcoin wallet, but it's easy enough to talk about and certainly easy enough to find. This is actually a message from me on Signal that I sent to my tablet, and it just says test. So this does work. It did happen. I could probably send another one right now. But anyway, how you do this, you have to independently install the app. You have to download it from the Signal website, signal.org. It's signal.org/Android/APK, I think. And you're going to have... So the problem with Signal, we're going to talk about this. Let's talk about Signal for a second. So Signal is something that's very commonly used on smartphones, iOS and Android. And the encryption on it is just, it's been vetted over and over. It's really, really well done how they set everything up on it. There has not been an actual crack or break in the Signal protocol. You may hear, Signal's broken. Somebody got to see something in Signal. Usually that's just how it was implemented, not actually the protocol itself. The encryption itself, the math is perfectly solid. So that's why it's so popular. Okay, and you can do everything with it now. You can do video calls, voice calls, text messaging, etc. It's a really, really slick app and very easy to use.
I love talking to people on Signal.
Yes.
My cell phone doesn't work at my brother's house. I stay there like once a week.
Yeah.
So I can call Shanlin on Signal, and she sounds like she's sitting right next to me.
Yeah, they've done
so good.
Yeah, they've done a great job with their audio and video calls. And the Signal, again, it uses data, so it doesn't actually it doesn't have to use your cell signal, which is handy now too. It used to be the opposite, but now it's the other way around, and I think that's great. So what you need, though, the thing is that say I have Signal on which I do, I have Signal on my smartphone. This, you can download a Signal app for your desktop, for your laptop, and you can sync between your phone and your laptop, but you can't have multiple installs of the Signal app and have your same account on multiple devices like this. Again, you can do it with your laptop, but you can't do it between devices. You can't have two smartphones with the same Signal ID on it, or Signal account. So you're going to have a separate Signal account on this from if you already have it installed on your smartphone, and if you do, that's awesome. But you're going to need a phone number for this, and this does not have a phone number. Very easy to do. You can do one of two things. One is, depending upon how secure you want to be about it, you can buy a burner phone, just a little dumb phone, $10, whatever. And the minimum amount of information that you can give them is a zip code and it has to kind of match the phone number that you're going for. I've seen people buy these burner phones with just giving them a zip code if you want to go that far, because it kind of defeats the purpose if you're handing over a ton of information to them. What's that?
Zip code, federal, regional, district.
Right, yeah. So
I don't accept zip code as mail. I haven't for like a dozen years.
This guy can tell you some stories. Let me assure you that. So anyway, so you can get a burner phone with a phone number on it, and then have that go to Signal. But you are going to be paying for that burner phone and for that phone number for as long as you want to use Signal on it. The other option is that you can get an app called Hushed, which creates fake phone numbers. There's also online, there's businesses out of Russia where you can buy phone numbers, American phone numbers, or not even American, and you could use it to get but basically you just need a phone number to receive a text message from the Signal servers to be able to verify that, yes, you can use Signal. But as soon as you do that, Signal works just like it does on a smartphone on your tablet. So if that's something you do want to do, you just got to download the app independently, not from the Play Store, and then just get one of those ways. You have to get a phone number. Yeah.
So I could use that Signal number that I get from Hush.
Yep.
To anonymously or quasi-anonymously or more anonymously go to the Satoshi One vending machine, or where they want you to put a phone number in when you buy or sell Bitcoin, And when I need to sell $5,000 worth of Bitcoin, I don't have to call all my brothers and say, listen, you're going to get a text message me that.
Yeah, right.
Because I don't have a scannable ID. They won't let you buy over 15,
Yeah.
worth. So we could set up several of these hush numbers, and all it is a text.
Right.
And I get the text right to my tablet right there, and I can make all these transactions and not have to scan ID.
Sure. There's a ton of practical reasons to have a second phone number, because a lot of services, including Facebook won't let you make an account without a phone number now. Like, they'll let you go for a few minutes, and then suddenly they'll say, oh, your account's not secure, you got to give us your phone number. And if you don't give them a phone number, you can't go any further. I mean, you're done. So, and I mean, there's good reasons to have, but like, say you just want to make a second Facebook account for a business or something. That way your account doesn't get shut down if your business gets in trouble for something. I mean, there's a million great reasons for two-factor authentication and other things to have a separate phone number that's not attached to your ID, perhaps. I mean, it takes a little work to get one sometimes, but I think it's a very practical thing to do. So that's what it takes to get Signal on here. And that's a bit of a pain in the ass, I think everybody would agree. I mean, a little bit of a pain in the ass. So what do we use? Well, all right. How many people, do you use Signal just to talk to like people like nearby, like in your city and stuff like that? Is that the main use, or do you? Everywhere. Use it for everywhere. Okay. Well, I'm going to show you an alternative that honestly, it's fairly new. It just got out of beta. I wasn't recommending it until it did get out of beta. It's been out of beta for about a month. But the developers, I think, are solid people. Ryan, you might even know one of them because he's a Zcash guy. But the app is called Briar. And the Briar app, it is pre-installed on your device. And if someone, maybe you and I, Ryan, can connect on this. You'll see, if you open up your app drawer, you'll see the Briar. It'll be like right at the top. It'll have a little crisscross symbol, and you can tap on it, and it's going to bring up the screen. And the first thing it's going to do, it's going to say, welcome to Briar, and it says, choose your nickname. So I'm just going to put in Green Ranger, and you don't have to put in anything yet if you don't want to. Because I'll talk about the challenges with Briar, but I think this app needs to become really popular and people should jump on it for quite a few reasons. So first thing I'll say about Briar is it routes everything through Tor. Even if you didn't have Orbot open, it's routing everything through Tor, which is really, really handy, okay, for starters. The second thing that it does, again, it's encrypting everything on the device. Nothing ever goes to any server anywhere. As to where even Signal stores a little bit on servers. It's all encrypted, or it's just the information like when you were last logged in and things like this. It's not really important stuff, but it still does collect a little bit. Briar, everything is done completely on the device, which is a very nice thing. So everything goes through Tor, and there's flaws too, but we'll get into those. But it has a lot of, I'm going to go to the next screen after that. It's going to ask me for my password. But it has a lot of features. It doesn't allow for video calling or anything like that yet. It doesn't allow for audio calling. So if that's something you popularly do with Signal, that's, you're not going to be able to do that here. But as far as like actual just texting, that this works beautifully. And then it asks you to allow for connections when you set it up. And it's going to ask you about ignoring battery optimizations. You can say yes, because battery optimizations have more to do with if you're connecting through a cellular network and you're connected at all times, then it's just going to say create account, and you create the account.
Allow Briar to take pictures and record video.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And the reason for that is how you connect with people, and that's what I'm going to show you in a second. Okay, so when you get into Briar and you hit the little hamburger menu, there's a bunch of different options here. It's going to show contacts first. That's people that you connect with. I'm going to show you how to do that. There's private groups, which you can create groups kind of like you would in Facebook Messenger. There's forums, kind of like old-style forums that you can set up. All these things you can set up right within this. There's blogs. You can even do blogging on it. It's trying to be honestly, it's trying to be almost an alternative internet. But basically, it's an alternative communications platform. Then there's some settings, and there's a sign out button. Signing out is important because again, same thing, where it's using Tor all the time, it will drain your battery. So you may not want to leave it on at all times. So signing out, you may need to do that at certain points. Now, at the bottom, it says Internet, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi. The reason it's asking those is that this messaging app can actually work if you have no internet connection whatsoever. If you have
networking type stuff?
Yes, exactly. What do you got?
I'll mention, that's actually its first attempt will be Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, I believe. It won't try internet first.
Right, yeah. So this can just work, like we could all message you, we don't have internet here, we could all connect to each other and we could have our own little internet rocking right here. Okay, and again, it's all encrypted, and the encryption, I mean, it's not the Signal protocol, but it's very good. It's still an excellent standard. What's that? No, it doesn't, not like Open Garden or anything like that. I think that's coming down the line.
So
but there's,
you could think of though, if there was a mesh network and it's on the Wi-Fi link, it will be going over those hops to find someone in the mesh network. But it doesn't.
Oh, like the network itself. Yeah, right. But yeah, that's at a different hardware point. Sure. What do you got?
So how's it doing it? I mean, is it using Bluetooth?
Yeah, it uses
Like we're all sitting
Bluetooth.
here in the room.
Exactly. So you have a distance, usually on a device like this or your smartphone, you have about, 30 to 50 feet, depending upon things. But it also uses Wi-Fi Direct, which has a little more of a distance to it. And again, I think it will get to the point where they're going to make it where it can hop around. And of course, there's the hardware solution to that really too.
That was a question I had. I have the app now, obviously, and
Sure.
I'm not sure. Is the Wi-Fi Direct and Wi-Fi? Or, like, how is that doing?
Well, it can only use one at a time.
Hop mode between two devices? Or no?
Well, Wi-Fi, so you can't, to use Wi-Fi Direct, I'm pretty sure you can't connect to Wi-Fi at the same time.
Right, you'd be using the antenna for that.
Right, yeah.
Did you know Briar does Wi-Fi Direct, or does it do messaging over a LAN?
Oh, no, it does Wi-Fi Direct. It uses Wi-Fi Direct
Does it also
specifically.
do over a LAN?
I don't think they've implemented where it's connecting through a LAN yet. But if you were connected to the internet with it,
So I was wondering on the Wi-Fi, was it just Wi-Fi Direct, or was it also, if I'm on the LAN on the Wi-Fi, will it try to find that device in Wi-Fi?
that's something I need to test. So again, this is fairly new, but that's a great
Yeah,
question. Yeah. You got a question, or sir? I thought. Okay.
Wi-Fi Direct means Wi-Fi directly from my device to your device.
Exactly.
Not through a router.
Yeah. Wi-Fi isn't going to a router; it's bouncing right to your
And
device.
LAN means going through like the router.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. No. Thank you for asking that, because sometimes I skip over these things. Anyway, so that's the real beauty of this, and it'd be very handy here. I mean, to be able to just talk with anybody over fair distances, and not have to have an internet connection, because obviously we're running into that problem right now. Okay. Let me show you how to connect with someone, and this is where the Briar app becomes impractical for a lot of people. And that is, like in the old days when we used in the 90s when we had PGP, what we were talking about earlier, PGP emails. The way that we verified that the person, that was actually their PGP key, because that's what you would do. You'd share that information physically with the person, okay? Or you'd share it over email, like your email can send your PGP key. PGP is a whole other conversation that if you have questions about it, we can talk about in a little bit. The way you really knew that was that person's PGP key is that they were right in front of you. You're at like a hacker conference or something like that, and the person was right there. And you'd say, okay, yeah, that's your key, you verified it, okay, that's you, all right, there it is. I mean, and that's about as good as it can get. So here's the problem, is that unless you're going to do this over Skype, you have to actually have the person right in front of you to be able to add them as a contact. So it can't be done remotely, again, because what it's going to do is bring up a QR code on the screen, and it's going to open up your camera. It's going to be a split screen. And you're going to like hold devices over each other, and that will connect you. No, go ahead. So do you have yours up?
Yep.
Okay, Jay, I'll connect to both of you. So we'll start off with Jay. Okay, so it's going to ask me, do you want to allow for pictures and record video? You're going to say yes, because you know what this app is doing with that information. It's using it to be able to add content. And the app wants to turn Bluetooth on. Okay, that's fine. All right, so it looks like this. QR code and the camera showing off my turbo lights. So, okay. And what we'll do is, Jay, actually, if you want to stand up and kind of hold your device up like this so that, let's see. Yeah, okay. So I'm holding my device upside down right now, and it just scanned your QR code.
Yeah.
And then you're going to turn yours around and then scan my QR code.
Got it.
Okay.
Changing contact details. Green Ranger, no messages.
Okay. And you're no one.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Now we'll add, I'm going to do this I'll do this in reverse. Ryan, if you want to stand up. And I'm going to, there's a plus symbol where it's got contacts. I'm going to hit that, and I'll hit continue. Okay, and I've got my, you can hold up your code, I'll scan you. And okay, so it's saying connecting to device, now waiting for contact to scan and connect. And there we go. And now you're Copernicus. Man, the Catholic Church has words for you, my friend. Okay, and so now I have two people in my contact list. I have No One and Copernicus. And once I have that, and again, because to do this, the person had to be right in front of me. Or perhaps, again, you could do this over Skype if you really needed to, or if you wanted to use like riot.in, which is a secure version of like video calling and things like that. You could, kind of just hold up each other's devices over a laptop screen and do it that way. So there are ways to get around that. They are working on, but I think this is going to be a miracle of Satan if they, I don't know how you can best or verify that a person is really there without, or that is really the person's key without the person actually being there. I don't know how they're going to pull this off, but they say they're working on it. A great way to verify identities.
Do you remember when Steve Gibson actually reviewed a bunch of the apps that did a lot of the similar stuff Briar did, and the way they got about it was using color codes, green was you met in person, you shared keys, you know who that
right.
is, and yellow.
Yeah, now Signal kind of offers this too, right? Where you can verify each other's secret keys. There's a settings in the settings for that.
Right, whereas their default is that everyone's allowed.
Right.
Whereas this one might be your default is you do it this way, but if you need to over the internet, you can share contact this way.
Right.
It's probably going to show up somehow different as less verified.
Yeah. Now, I hate to say it this way. In my book, I have a full tutorial on how to use Briar. So when you get that, if you have questions then, and like I said, that'll be out in pretty short order.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no worries. So, because this app I'm personally really excited about because I think it does so much right. Honestly, I think the fact that you have to, the way that we were exchanging keys, the way we were doing what they call a handshake with QR codes, I think that's the right way to do it. I think that's the way you have to do it, to have actual security. And I think that's the beauty of festivals, right? We get like-minded individuals all kind of coming together, so we all come here, and then we can connect in this way, and we go forward. So the one challenge, though, with Briar is that as it stands right now, I'm sure they're going to come up with this at some point, but Signal's kind of the same way. If you lose your device, or if you delete the Briar app, it's gone. There's no backup option.
If you just forget your password, but
yeah, you're done.
There's no recovery for the password.
Right. If you forget your password, it's over. But again, I think that's a good thing. I don't think that's bad. I jokingly call this on my show the 10th law of thermodynamics. There is no 10th law, but the 10th law of thermodynamics is there's always a trade-off between security and convenience. It's always a trade-off. If it's convenience, security starts going out the door. If it's secure, convenience starts going out the door. And there's a lot of people that will argue right and left saying, no, we can make it easier. No, at some point there's negative returns. It's just how it is. If you want actual security, it takes work. And any honest security researcher is going to tell you the same thing. Steve Gibson, I read that quote from there. That's just what it takes. And so what Briar does, I like it. I think that that's actually the right way. And when people get together, and I really appreciate all of you, coming to this class and of course coming to this event, it allows us to do it the right way with all of this. So messaging on the Briar app, it works just like, let's see, yeah. And it has a little bit of a tutorial built into itself. But messaging on the Briar app works just like any other messenger. You just type in hi, and it'll go to Jay. And the blogging and everything, all the other interesting social features, you can all reshare that within your group, and you can create these private groups and everything. It's very handy. So Briar is an app that I'd like people to get used to using more. And you can use it on your smartphone. There's no reason you can't use it here, too. Again, it does drain your battery, so you may not want to leave it on at all times. That could be a problem for some people because you want communication at all times, and I completely understand that. But that I just want to make people aware. Okay, let's move on to. There's one last app that you're going to see at your bottom right. There's a camera app there, but the one is that's the podcast app that I mentioned, which is AntennaPod.
You aware of that yet?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, that's what I was saying. That's the little tutorial that it has. But anyway, that's Antenna Pod, and that's just a podcast app. Works like any other podcast app. Just so you know what it is. And if you notice, my podcast happens to be there. I do warn you that I run a very uncensored show, and you never know what the hell's going to happen on there. But people say it's informative. Woo! Hey, all right. Boy, there's a brilliant woman right back there. Okay. So Antenna Pod, not much to say on that. Just that's your basic podcast app. And other than that, so there is. How many people here would want to do like any kind of Bitcoin transactions with this? You do want to do Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. How about Bitcoin Cash? Does that matter to people? Sure. Okay. Mycelium. Have you heard of that wallet? Okay, Mycelium wallet allows you to it can be down. That was one of the things I wanted to show you what an independent download looks like. All of these devices, you usually to independently download onto an Android device, you have to actually change the security setting, which is allow for third-party installations. I have that set on all of your devices that way. You are free to turn that off if you don't want to do that. But like you can't install things that you can install from F-Droid once F-Droid is installed on it, so it doesn't become a problem then. But just so that you're aware, I'm just telling you that that's the case. But I don't think it's that huge of a concern. So you can go to Mycelium's website, and they will instruct you on how to independently install the Mycelium Bitcoin wallet. And the Mycelium wallet is probably the best wallet bar none, like out there. Just flat out as far as Bitcoin goes. Doesn't matter the platform. I think it's the best for a lot of reasons. Mycelium also interacts very well if you have a Trezor, which is a hardware wallet for Bitcoin, but like the Model T, you can actually connect it with your Android device to where it interacts with the Mycelium wallet, which that can be very nice. The Mycelium wallet, when you first download it, it's going to ask you, do you want to download the Bitcoin Cash module? And so if Bitcoin Cash matters to you, absolutely go ahead and download that module. They haven't implemented it straight into the wallet yet. It's a separate thing, but it handles that on its own, and it keeps the Bitcoin Cash nodes updated automatically within the device. But yeah, Mycelium is definitely my top recommendation to use. There's Green Wallet. There's some other ones that exist within the F-Droid store, but just go ahead and get your hands on the Mycelium wallet straight up. Go ahead.
The local trader feature at Mycelium is amazing.
Yes.
When you travel, you can go to any city and find traders that will buy your Bitcoin off of you. So, like if you're traveling across borders, if you're in Europe, this is where I just meet people in the park. And
right.
When I need euros, and you're not going through Coinbase or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is where this kind of device can really shine, because you can do everything local and maybe even a little anonymous. So.
And you can make friends.
And you can make friends while you're at it. Yeah. So Mycelium is great. You're going to want that. That's the one that I recommend. That is also in my book on how to set that up. I didn't install it on anyone's devices just because the installation process asks questions that you yourself should know. That's not for me to know about you. So that's how that setup will work. Any other questions on cryptocurrencies with this device that people may have? Anything? We're good. Yeah.
So, Steven's AnyPay app.
Yeah.
Would there be a way, like, if I left this thing out on my table, that I could set this up so when you open up the screen, the AnyPay app will just pop open without having to put in or is that like a lot of steps? Or
I'm not sure.
Well, but that's just it's web based. So you would you know how you drag it to you go to the website and you register it, and then it's just an icon.
But I haven't used it yet, so
yeah. So it's web. So you shouldn't have a problem.
Okay.
It's a web page.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Or leave it unlocked.
So I have to leave it unlocked, essentially.
Yeah, but
is there a way to go in so you can have an unlocked default that just shows up on these? Have you gotten that far?
If you left it open, whatever it is,
okay.
when you hit the power button,
yeah.
Not turn it off, but just put it to sleep.
Yeah.
Then it could come up, but then also you'd still have to do the unlock of your PIN and everything.
Okay.
So, yeah, I used to actually recommend I just got a message on Briar. Isn't that nice? Yeah. Okay. Do you have any more OtterBoxes for this device? Yeah, they don't have OtterBoxes for these.
Well, your case looks really nice.
Yeah, this is a Fossman. It's an Amazon's choice, and it was like $8. Yeah. Yeah, I wish they used to have OtterBoxes for these, but again, it's been a while. So, okay. So, what was your Bitcoin question?
Oh, I just want to know, what level of trust do you have in this as far as storing your crypto keys? Like, would you put X dollars of crypto in it, but no more than that because it become too tempting and it is crackable with enough effort?
Well, so Mycelium has great backup options. So, like, I wouldn't be. I mean, my primary concern with a mobile device of this type is losing it, or getting stolen, and that's a problem. But Mycelium, that's why I wouldn't store so much and maybe treat it more as a hot wallet. But Mycelium has such great options for making sure that you can really regain control of your wallet. I feel pretty trustworthy with this. In fact, for years, up until Trezor came out with their Model T, my recommendation for like the most secure Bitcoin wallet wasn't even a paper wallet or a brain wallet. It was actually taking like an old smartphone and tossing Lineage OS on it, and then like installing Mycelium and just never have it really connect to the internet and have everything interact through QR codes, like so that it's almost like air gapped. That's in my wargaming in my head. That's always been my top choice. So that's how comfortable I feel with with an Android device in that sense. But of course, like with that kind of device that I theorized, you'd lock it away somewhere. Like you'd almost never touch it. And you just power it up as needed. So yeah, with Mycelium, I feel very comfortable, and with the hardware itself, again, if someone's coming for you at that level to where they're going to hook up one of those devices, to this, heaven help us.
You've already given up something if someone's targeting your device because they already know how much crypto you have on it. Like
to some degree, there's truth to that.
Already a failure of your security.
Well, I'm thinking like suppose you're storing crypto on behalf of others. It's large amounts, and you're trying to be a good custodian of that, right? And
yeah.
You're keeping this offline as much as possible, but eventually you're going to need to transfer something to something else.
Right.
Like, would you trust this being on for a bit to do that transfer and make that transaction, or would you say this just is not satisfactory enough for that purpose?
No, I would trust this next to like installing Armory on a laptop. Okay. Like I'd trust this as much as an Electrum wallet or something along those lines. Or again, if we're talking about like the Trezor Model T or something, that's that's another level where it's a completely separate device, and certainly that's a great option to go with as well. Okay, what other things? So we described email communications. Secure communications that we can do, web browsing, Tor. We talked about Bitcoin. We got into using cryptocurrencies. There aren't a lot of great altcoin wallets for options for this. Like Bitcoin's kind of the way to go. Like what is it, Garda for Zcash?
Yeah, Garda, the Jax. Is Jackson in F-Droid?
I don't think Jax is in F-Droid.
But
Jax is.
It just has a lot of options.
What do you think of
It has options, yeah.
But even like Zcash in there, they don't use the Z addresses.
No, right, which defeats
I don't think any of the mobile wallets do because they can't.
Yeah, even Guardia or whatever doesn't use the. So that's sad because ZK Snarks is great encryption. I'm so excited about privacy coins when it comes to cryptocurrencies, Zencash, Zcash, all of them. But they require, no smartphone can run those things.
But that'll change.
Hopefully, yeah. I'd like to see that change in pretty short order.
As far as wallets, have you looked at the Edge wallet yet? It's one I downloaded recently, but I know
Airbits.
Yeah, it's what Airbits became. I know they try to be a security type.
Yeah, they're trying to be like a whole platform, right? Yeah, they're trying to be like a whole platform. I mean, when it comes to straight Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, like Mycelium does, it's just such a standard for me. Like Airbit or Edge is probably handy if you want to be able, like, where you can use their features, like where you can really restore it by logging in with your account and everything, right? Like what Airbits used to do, or what they still do, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's multi-coin now too.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it does a lot more. Yeah. I don't have a whole ton of experience with it yet, and it's kind of new. So and I kind of right, and I thought it was a little short-sighted to name it after a web browser. But so that is, whether people use it or not, that is popular. But okay, so what else would you like to do? Would you like to use maps on this device? Do you want me to talk about that? would you like to use it as a GPS to navigate? We can talk about that. So there is an app called Awesome And, OSM, which stands for Open Street Maps. And it's Awesome And Plus. This is not as good as Google Maps. Nothing is. The reason that Google Maps is so good is because they are taking every little piece of data they can from you, whether you like it or not. So, keep that in perspective. But it does work very well. It'll certainly get you to Rogers Campground easily enough.
Is it on?
Oh, I didn't pre-install it just because I didn't know. There's things I didn't know if people wanted. Because again, I wanted to give you the baseline, and I didn't really know what my audience would be to where what they would want.
So I search it in F-Droid.
Yeah, it'd be an F-Droid, and it would be OSM and. I'm happy to write these apps down for anybody that wants them as well. If you can't install them right now.
I like how they warn you that this app may have features you may not like.
Yeah, right. Yeah, F-Droid's great. I think that's cute. Also, what's nice is that F-Droid allows developers to put their Bitcoin address in for their app because everything's free in F-Droid. But certainly something like Awesome And, I recommend that donate to them. They usually charge for it in the Play Store, but they offer it for free on F-Droid, which I think is really kind of them. The nice thing about Awesome And is that it can work without an internet connection. Google Maps recently implemented this. There's been Here Maps, where you can download literally the entire world. I don't recommend doing that.
So Google Maps lets you download a map.
Yes.
But if it's expired by 30 days, you actually can't use that map. They lock you out.
Right.
They don't want to give you old data. It's like you think you're going to be all conveniently set up for that trip, but your map data is 31 days old. You can't use it now.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So Awesome And, I think it's really handy because.
The download date,
yeah.
They want you to have up-to-date data.
So this has offline maps, which is really just a handy feature to where you could easily get around New Hampshire without an internet connection. Which up here, that's a thing.
You still need a paper map if you're going to run Google Maps and you get to a place no signal.
Yeah, well, yeah. It'll kind of pre-cache it a little bit, but you can still run into trouble. But this is very handy for that. Now, understand again, you only have 16 gig of onboard storage on this, and it does not have a micro SD card slot to add on any bit of that. But I think that's kind of a security feature, not having a micro SD card slot, because then somebody can't just jam that in there. Of course, there's still this slot, but anyway. We take what we can get. So Awesome And is really handy. It works very well. I'll just say that. It works very, very well. So you can, that's something that you can install if you want to use it for GPS, as a GPS device. And the battery life on this thing is awesome. You can, especially if it's powered down, you could forget that you even turned it off. And, you come back 2 days later and the thing's still going. It's really impressive. So working as a GPS device, it does a great job of that as well. What other things can you think of that you want to do that you're not seeing while you're exploring your devices that you want to do? Go ahead.
One thing I plan on doing is I do a lot of truck repair.
Okay.
And I'm starting to get into all these. I'm starting to get to the point to where some of these newer trucks I'm working on, I have to access the OBD2 system.
Yeah.
So there's an app called Torque.
Yep.
And you can buy this thing on Amazon. It plugs into your OBD2.
And it's Bluetooth, yeah.
And I was actually literally going to buy a tablet 2 months ago, and I'm like, I'm going to wait and just get this one for you. Listen to your show. But basically, so that's something I want to do. And I'm not 100% sure if I can do that through F-Droid.
Go ahead.
I just haven't dug for it yet in F-Droid.
Sure. I don't know if that kind of app exists, but again, you can use Aurora.
Yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I will try to buy it directly from Torque.
Right.
But then again, the Amazon store kind of works nice for me because I kind of have a bank account or
Sure.
a credit card, and I can go buy a Walmart Amazon card, and
Yeah. No,
and prepay for it.
Right. Yeah, I think everybody here is at different security levels of where they want their security and anonymity, and then that's something I wasn't able to gauge. So that's why I wanted to have plenty of time for questions on what you want to do with this device. But at baseline, this is about one of the most secure things you could really get your hands on. I will say quick, another thing to do is that, like I said, you can independently install Signal. You can independently install some apps like Mycelium and others. If you actually email the developer, a lot of times they will, as long as it doesn't need Google Play services, like this background app action, they sometimes might just send you the APK file, and you can just install it through them, and that's really nice of them.
Send them an email, hey, can I pay you guys in cryptocurrency, which I do all the time, every time I buy something now anyways.
I've had so many listeners that have emailed me that they've done that, and I think it's a great way to go. Independently installing apps, I mean, F-Droids makes things handy, right? Mm-hmm. But like independently installing apps, I mean, so we've been doing with our computers forever, and there's no reason to stop. What do you got?
If you want to maintain a persistent anonymous identity,
yes.
Is there something on here where you can digitally sign everything that you're doing, whether it's publishing or communicating with somebody, so they know it's the same person every time?
Depending on what you're using, there's not like an automatic, like something that would constantly check for like MD5 hashes or something like that. But like with the PG, if you set up with Open Keychain and say you're doing it through email, you can send. It'll send a little ASE file, which is a signature file that, oh yeah, this is me.
I mean, like if you want to publish something, though, like it's so that you're publishing on various places so that they know it's that same, persistent identity across places.
I'd have to get back to you on that, and I'm actually happy to get back with you on that. That's an interesting thing to set up.
If you want to try to get a message out to the world, right, and you're trying to make a persistent series of articles, and you want people to know it's the same person, but you want to use a device like this to write it up and create it where you know your identity is secure, and then get it out there, right? This would be a great device for that.
Yes.
But you need some way to assure people, yes, it's the same person each time.
Yeah. Platform specific too, like what platform would that be on that you're talking about? Because I can think of a platform that does it, but if you're not like the Scuttlebutt platform, you could do something like that.
Oh yeah.
So it's going to be on that one device like Briar is, and it's going to be exchanged.
Well, I mean, something that you can digitally sign it so that it's visible in
well,
ASCII,
right? Where is it being visible?
Well, wherever you want to put it, on any message board, whether it's a channel, whatever. Right?
Yeah.
You can digitally sign it so that wherever you go, everybody knows it's the same person.
Yeah, I have your email address. I'm happy to get back with you on that and think about that. I mean, Briar, like if everybody was on Briar, it's very easy. You set up an anonymous identity because it doesn't ask for any identifying information, and you can actually do blog posts on there that people can reshare.
With people you know
right, but you're talking way out there.
If you're trying to publish, right?
Yeah.
And you're trying to be the next Satoshi, say. And
you
want to
get
really critical messages out to the world, right, about things, but you do not want that your identity connected with it.
Yeah, so like the first thing that comes to mind for me is Telegraph, not Telegram, but it's the same company. Which Telegram, we don't need to talk about the messenger, but like the company itself, it's run by an anarchist, Pavel Durov. I think the company itself is rather trustworthy. Its encryption's another story, but it's telegra.ph, and it is an anonymous publishing platform. How you and all they need is the address for it and everything, and you can put that out there, and then that would work.
I'm interested in being able to publish across all platforms, right, and sign it as the same thing. Because not everybody's going to be on Telegraph.
No, right. Another thing is that Orbot works really well with Twitter, and if you set up if you set up an anonymous identity on Twitter, and you can set up Twitter allows. Well, you don't, because you wouldn't install the Twitter app, because the Twitter app allows you to run through Tor, but you're not doing that. Okay. I would think almost if you had Twitter where you created this anonymous identity and then everybody could kind of openly look at that. But let me get back to you on that, because I love that. But it does bring something. I actually brought this with me. This does bring to mind. Say you want to do some word processing with this. One of the apps I was going to have you install from F-Droid is a very basic note app called UNote. And you can get a Bluetooth keyboard. One could bring up security concerns over this. Is that, what is this? What is this what is this storing perhaps? Is there a keylogger on this or on this Bluetooth keyboard, and is it going to send that data somewhere else? I mean, again, it's all threshold. But Bluetooth keyboards work beautifully on one of these devices. You connect it, and you could use this as your personal computer in a very real sense. And because it's a tablet, and say you're using Orfox, which is the web browser Orfox based on Firefox, it has a very easy setting to give me the desktop site. And so, really, you could have it like with this case, And I mean, it's a small screen, sure, but you could use it almost as a full computer because most of the stuff we do is in our web browsers anyway today.
If you connect a Bluetooth mouse, do you get
get a cursor? Yep. Yeah, and just about every Bluetooth mouse today connects to an Android tablet just fine. Even like Microsoft's mice and all of them. I mean, they do a really great job. So yeah, you could connect a mouse as well, and yeah, I mean, you have a really full-blown machine here for that sort of thing. Any other questions, or I'll bring up another thing. We can.
Any concerns with any of those Bluetooth devices having keyloggers built into those devices?
Yeah. I mean, that's a genuine concern, and certainly when I think you buy them, perhaps from countries from over ponds, there might be a problem. I mean, there's a reason sometimes these devices or these keyboards can only sell for $10 because they're being subsidized with data collection. I could certainly believe that. This is a Logitech that I have here. There's no reason that doesn't have a keylogger either, but that's definitely something to keep in mind, is that potentially you could be using a keylogger.
So, and like you've said on your show several times, is like don't have your Wi-Fi on when you go into somewhere and you want to make a cryptocurrency transaction, or so anything that would be wireless. I make sure my Bluetooth is off and my Wi-Fi is off anytime I open up my cryptocurrency wallet or to send some or exchange some or something, or anytime I'm like putting in my password to my email.
Yeah.
And that's all literally because listening to you.
Sure.
You say that stuff repetitively, which is great.
Yeah, that way people have it in their head,
right.
Like you.
So,
yeah.
So if you don't use the keyboard to log into email, but maybe use it to write the email. Right?
Sure, you could do that. Yeah.
Write it in the word processor app and then paste
it
over.
I mean, the beauty of having this tablet is that it's an auxiliary device. Okay, everything that you do on this, you don't have to do on this, and you don't have to keep this persistently connected because you have this that's persistently connected. The other thing is, again, because this is an auxiliary device, you can be as anonymous or pseudonymous as you choose. You don't have to log into anything. That was the base point that I loaded these to, is where you don't have to give any identifying information if you don't want to. And anonymity is its own major part of security. I used to have a concept, but then some idiot came up with the idea of DApps, but I called it DApps, and it was decentralization, anonymity, privacy, and security. And it was my baseline for what I thought software should be going for. It should be decentralized, it should allow for anonymity, and it should allow for privacy, which those are two separate things, and it should allow for security, which most people think anonymity, privacy, and security are all the same thing. They're actually not. Like one could argue that the Chrome browser is the most secure browser, but is it the most anonymous and private? Not by a long shot. So those are different concepts that people want to get attributed. Right. Well, yeah. I mean, in Chrome, like stores anything you type in the address bar goes right to Google, and they've admitted that since the beginning, which is why we use Firefox. So yeah.
I love what you've done with this. I mean, this is like a
sure.
great, easy way to get to a great level of privacy and security. But if you wanted to even take it to an even deeper level of assurance, do you recommend anything? I know there's like the IOMA 68 project with the All-Winner 820 processor, where they're trying to really get to the open source level of hardware where they can see everything. But where would you point people if you want to go even further than this?
If you want to go further than this, I think we go to laptops. We get away from mobile devices entirely. I will all right, first off, great question. Absolutely. And again, and thank you for recognizing, like, this is on that spectrum of security and convenience. Right.
Balance, yeah.
Right, exactly. So if you want to go, pretty hardcore, the first option is, even though I don't think it's even as secure as this, but I just want to mention it. There is, it's called Copperhead OS, which is another variant, like Lineage OS. It's another variant of Android. And they will sell you Pixel phones. Actually, they'll sell you the Pixel 2 as well, which are Google's flagship phones, which are totally redone. I mean, like they've really stripped these things to where they're trying to create the most secure phone in the world. They cost about $1,000. But you can go to their website, you can buy them right now, and they'll ship them to you. I think that they're a fine option. They are working with the Guardian Project, who I mentioned earlier, who created the bulk of the software that's on this. So that's a fine option if you're looking for it as far as phones. But again, that's a pretty good premium price as to where, just taking a phone, and like this phone has the same operating system that this has on it. This phone cost me $200. And it just took me the time to install Lineage OS on it. That's a lot more practical for most people than hashing out $1,000. And you're certainly not going to get a Copperhead OS phone on a payment plan with Sprint or something,
That's better than, say, the black phone.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's more like corporate level. security, not nation-state security.
Yeah, the black phone, the first model was awesome. I loved it. Phil Zimmerman was behind it. I mean, that was fantastic. But then the black phone 2, they put the Google Play Store on it, and I was like, well, okay, you just, and that's kind of a problem. Is that people they just want Facebook Messenger, and it's like you don't understand. As soon as you put that on there, don't say privacy and Facebook Messenger in the same breath. And when you install Facebook Messenger on a device, the list of permissions, thank you, of permissions that it asks for. I mean, it's crazy. It asks to make phone calls for you. Like that app could literally make its own phone calls without you knowing. I mean, it's madness. I understand why people have it. And look, hey, great. Put Facebook Messenger on your smartphone. Have your auxiliary device. Separate your identities. And that's kind of the concept and why I think it's good to have that. Did you have a question or?
No.
No, you're good. Okay.
I
didn't finish answering your question.
You said Copperhead for the phone.
Yes.
But for the laptop, if you want to get away from the management engines and that kind of stuff, do you like the EOMA 68, or do you have any recommendations?
Yeah.
There?
So my favorite. So there's also the Librem project, which I've heard some fair reviews of those. They're still working out some of that. The problem is just like with this, where we're having to use a 5-year-old tablet to be able to do all of this. You kind of have to get a 10-year-old computer, and they're out there. They're called the LibreBoot X200, LibreBoot T400. What they are refurbished pre-Sandy Bridge ThinkPads they've just stripped everything on it, and they've installed a custom firmware called LibreBoot, and that's. Yeah, I mean that's where I'd start. I think that's it. And it'll come with. They usually come with. I think it's called Triskel, which is a Linux operating system. It has everything you could want on it. It even has a Bitcoin wallet pre-installed. It has Electrum, which is totally fine, and a bunch of other. A lot of all open source software. I mean, they're really sticklers, and they're Free Software Foundation certified.
Do you believe, though, in this premise that the A20 processor is maybe the latest processor you can get that doesn't have all this stuff in there that's
Yeah, well,
snooping stuff in there.
Yeah, I mean, supposedly, the Ryzen processors from AMD,
Okay.
they said that would be compatible with LibreBoot. Okay. No one's done it yet, but I hope that happens. And AMD's doing money with the Ryzen, it's popular. Certainly with, I'll tell you this too. I wouldn't buy a computer right now because with Spectre and Meltdown, which are 2 exploits on Intel processors as well as other ARM and AMD. They're fixing those at the hardware level, and I wouldn't buy a computer until Intel released, the processors with the fix, because that's really, really ugly. So, I'd also like to see if somebody would do LibreBoot with a Ryzen processor. That would really change things up. Okay, any other questions on that?
What was the name of the map app again? Something awesome?
Sure, yeah. I'll actually write it down for you. It's Awesome And. Awesome And Plus is actually the full name. So just OSM, which stands for OpenStreetMaps. I don't know what the hell the AND stands for.
Android?
That's probably exactly what it stands for.
Android Plus.
Yeah, OpenStreetMaps Android Plus. So
Very good.
Yeah.
Good time.
Right on. Okay, so it's 12:50, so technically we have 10 minutes. I can go over one other quick little thing, or if you have any other questions. Yeah, please.
Do you explore at all, sort of build your own, do-it-yourself skiffs? Building a little Faraday cage and kind of really insulating yourself if you really want to be secure.
Well, so Faraday cage, really all you need is a Mylar bag.
Well, I mean, if you want to do a true skiff, though, you've got
right.
lots of. That's just one level.
Yeah.
Right. You've got to have lots of things there, and then how do you get in and out of the skiff with communication, right? And truly filter things in and out.
I've read that an ammo box makes a good Faraday cage.
Yeah, that can work as well, depending upon the age of it. That's not a direction where I would claim expertise, but I do admittedly. When I travel, I put all of my, toothbrush and deodorant and all that different stuff into a aluminum bag that is handy to just have around for whenever. It also happens to be able to fit this guy in it. So that's something to consider keeping around.
How do you get data in and out of a secure cold storage to out there? I mean, do you trust any particular USB keys to be totally safe? Or how do you get data from a place you think is secure to the internet where it's
between
not
air-gapped
yeah.
devices.
Yeah, how do you get it back and forth so that it's not carrying something back and forth?
Yeah, so I'm one of the, oh boy, this is a big one because I'm one of the guys that believed there's a security researcher named Dragos, and I believed, and I still believe, that he talked about an exploit called Bad BIOS. It was very big in the news a few years ago. That the idea is that literally a microphone from one computer was transmitting data to an air-gapped. Air-gapped means that it's not connected to the internet, it's not connected to anything. No USB devices, nothing.
I mean, look at what they did with Stuxnet, right? To get
Right.
across them, right? There's all these methods they've been coming up with.
Exactly, yes. So I firmly believe that Bad BIOS is a thing. And
what was the idea there? The microphone's doing something?
oh, the microphone was actually sending signal data effectively that was rewriting the BIOS. I mean, it sounds unbelievable, but Dragos made a pretty good case, and it's been back and forth whether or not it's been proven that it existed or not. But yeah, through sending like signals through a microphone, it would get received by this, by the firmware. So the idea is that the firmware was set up to actually interact with audio signals being, hypersonic audio signals being sent. Because that's something else that I've had people ask me, because I have clients that want to get recommendations on how to secure their stuff, and some people want to go really far, and I say, well, rip out the microphone out of that thing, and if you really need one, you're going to connect one via USB, and obviously that also goes with taping over the camera, which you're welcome to do on these. There's a little shameless plug. There's a company called Unix Stickers that will sell little ones that actually will fit perfectly over like smartphone cameras. But if you use the code, or if you use the URL stickers.sovereigntech.com, you'll get $5 off of your order, and I'll get a little cut of it. And well, anyway, there's my shameless plug. So that's something else to consider too. In just the last few minutes, I'm going to, while we're getting advanced here in certain things, something I want to recommend people checking out. I have in my hand, and I will often wear around my neck, what's called a YubiKey. Is anybody familiar with these? Ryan, I know you are. A YubiKey is a device that is... Now, a YubiKey can actually interact with this device through NFC. So there's applications to use it for this as well.
What is NFC?
NFC, near field communication, which is kind of like a really, really low end and basic Bluetooth. It's what all of your, like if you're using Google Pay or Apple Pay or something like that, they all use NFC, but it's all for really, really close stuff. YubiKey, and this is the YubiKey Neo, which specifically has NFC. What this does is that, and there's other versions of this. There's a new version that's using it, what they call WebAuth, which is a new standard where instead of passwords, you actually would just plug this into your device, or perhaps in the future you just like tap it to your device to activate the NFC, and this would store your passwords on it, and it does an asymmetric encryption challenge to verify that you are who you are. This is a direction that I'd like things to go, where instead of using passwords, which are problematic out of the gate, like we said at the beginning, where we're getting used to using other hardware to log into our devices. So YubiKeys are something I just want to recommend that people explore. While you're already making an investment in really secure hardware, these are about $20 to $40, and I think that they're definitely worth exploring. And if you have questions,
identify yourself to the YubiKey?
No, you don't have to.
How does it verify? Is it just physical possession that enables you to use it, or do you have?
There is a password.
Okay.
Or there is a password that encrypts your AES.
Okay.
That will allow you to verify, but otherwise there's no identifying information. Okay. Also, these YubiKeys, depending upon which YubiKey you get, the higher end YubiKeys will also store one-time pins, which there's apps for that. I really should have installed one of those on this for you, where you use two-factor authentication with a PIN number that cycles every 30 to 60 seconds.
Can you back up the YubiKeys in case you lose them?
Yeah, we lose stuff all the time.
So that's the first question that gets asked about YubiKeys, and it's a great one. And the answer is you buy two.
Right.
That's exactly, yeah. That's really the only answer.
That are matched
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that you set up all the same things
Got
with.
it.
But that's the same principle behind Briar, right? Like if you lose your device, you're screwed.
Right.
Now you can't replicate Briar yet. I think that's going to be a feature that's going to come out pretty soon.
So what's to stop someone else from physical possession of a YubiKey?
They'd also have to have they'd have to know your private key. Like they'd have to know your password that activates your private
Like
key.
the cops when they arrest you.
Yeah.
They'd have to have the device, have
Right.
your password,
Right.
and then also know like, what kind of devices you're using to like log in with, where you're using it, like how you're using that.
So
You might not use it for everything.
Yeah,
It might
right,
even
right.
log you into something.
Right.
but what if you say you use the YubiKey? Like, is every interaction with YubiKey require you to also enter a password, or is it just the initial?
Well, the initial time that you plug it in, it will ask for that password, and then it'll give it. Well, actually, if you're using the YubiKey physically to log into a site, you're going to have to plug it in, and then once you pull it, you can still say logged in, but then it'll ask you again the next time. Like if you're using LastPass, which I think LastPass is fine. I've kind of given into that. Like you can set up LastPass to where you have to have your YubiKey. You have to plug it into your device to be able to use LastPass.
This would be good for also someone like my wife who can never remember her password.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
She wouldn't need it to use it, and that's not necessarily a security standpoint.
Mhm.
We're talking about more of a
Practical.
It is, but practical.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, there's some other ideas for hardware. Like another hardware device that does all of your authentication, getting rid of passwords that are coming down the pike. Sure. No, these are great things to get people used to. I think it's a wonderful thing. So, okay, it is 1 o'clock. Unless anybody has any other questions, I hope you found this valuable. If you did not, please don't hesitate to talk to me or Roger, because I know this was not a cheap course, but I hope you find your device does well for you. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. This is my first time doing something like this one, so yeah, excellent.